Hey everybody, how's you doing? I'm doing great. Sorry, having a little bit of technical difficulties here today, and my partner in crime is running late, so I don't know when he'll be on, but he should be joining us at some point in time. So, hope everybody's doing all right today. Let's see who we got here. Jim, greetings. Ted, greetings. Whew. I was cold earlier. I shouldn't say cold. I was cool earlier, so I had a sweatshirt on. I just took it off real quick. Flying solo. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But now it's really getting warm again. So we'll see. It's been kind of cool here in New York, but not really bad. But like it's just raining and damp, kind of. So, so hope everybody's doing all right. That was good Infinite playlist the other night, Largo, with G-Force on there. He had quite a few interesting song choices on there. A couple of the one band that he mentioned, and I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head, but I had no idea about them, but definitely liked them. They were the ones you were talking about were pretty deep and could be triggering if you were in the wrong state of mind at that point in time. I never heard of them, so. Fighting Writer's Block. Several trip halfway done. Yeah. I know the feeling. That Unheimlich is going to be pretty cool. I really enjoyed that first little episode you put out on Monday, or actually Sunday night, but I watched it Monday morning, so that was pretty good. You're there without a hella dope mug, Lawrence? I have one. I came prepared too. I got a whole thermos of coffee. See that? That's the evenings brew. So I'm going to jump right into the slideshow with the news, and then we'll see if Luke comes in before we're done with that. All right. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing some wizards from different movies and media, stuff like that. And yeah, that's definitely a good looking mug, Ted. I love the way how much coffee it holds and all of it actually. So it's good. Works out well. But let's see. Who else we got here? Oh, Paul Knapp is here. Evening, Paul. And that's it for now. All right. So news from the CRICK. So on Sunday, we had the celebration for Hella Dope Toys reaching 500 subscribers on YouTube, 1,000 followers on Instagram, and basically what result was really their 1 year anniversary on YouTube doing a live stream. So they had a little show. A bunch of us gave some stuff away. Well, if you have a digital render, you could just 3D print that if you had a 3D printer there, Lawrence. So Hella Dope gave away a Morph figure from Marvel Legends, which Happy Accident was the winner of that. And they gave away an alien figure from NECA, who DJ 5 Ash was the winner for that one. Hella Dope gift card, which us here at Action Figs supplied, was won by Big Bacon. Travis gave away a Hexastack starter kit, and Robert's Infinite Realms won that. Random Diorama, he gave away one of his sci-fi councils, which are really cool, in 1/12 scale. Oz from Nostradamus Toys won that one. It's Chad gave away the 3 3/4 inch vintage style Deseret figure that random diorama actually won. Demetrios from the Mythic Legions, PowerCon exclusive, was given away by Helidope Toys, and that was KJ Smith won that one. And then Aaron gave away a wrestling championship belt from his private collection, which my buddy's custom won that one. So congratulations to all the winners. It was a really good show. Had a lot of people in the chat participate and everything else. It was a good time. So again, congratulations to all the winners. Congratulations to Helidope for your continued and ever-growing success. Next set of news is last week at some point in time, Valiverse announced that they're going to be doing a new neck design, which I think is going to be a good thing, depending on how it actually ends up being laid out and how it functions and everything. And as long as it doesn't get loose, their necks has probably been the one point of articulation that I've had trouble with as far as posing goes. Getting the head laid down into like a rifling position, or looking up all the way when you're in a certain position trying to, shoot a small firearm, or, in a fighting pose or something like that. So hopefully the design works out well, and the neck stays tight and gives us another point of articulation to improve the excellent poses we can already get those figures in. NECA also released another one of their Dungeons and Dragons, which is the dwarf. I haven't bought any of those figures yet, but they all look really, really good. But they're 7-inch, and it's just another thing I don't want to get into that one when I've already got so many other things I'm already into. So I was told that I can say no. So I'm saying no to this, but because we were talking about Wizards tonight and this was just announced recently, I thought it was a cool figure, so I threw it in here. And then my favorite, Operation Monster Force. They announced 2 new figures last week for pre-order. These ones will be available in September, but they're available to pre-order right now on that other site that's not Helidope Toys. This is Apophis Legion, and this is kind of a zombie soldier. So the Apophis Legion, again, is the ones that the Forgotten King actually transforms the soldiers that were sent to attack him into the Apophis Legion. So this is actually an American or whatever soldier who ends up getting transformed into a undead soldier by the Forgotten King, and becomes part of his legion of dead people. Pretty cool set. Got some really nice looking firearms. Of course, this picture is kind of crappy that Big Bad put up, because you can't really see a lot of the things under with the dark background. But got some hands, an extra head that's kind of more zombified. It's got a boonie hat, a helmet, some weapons and the weapons, of course, are gridiron weapons. So as Lawrence pointed out last night on his show, you can either buy a whole Monster Force figure with gridiron weapons for $35-$36, or you can just buy a couple of gridiron weapons for basically the same price. So just another amazing looking figure in that line of awesome figures so far. So and then with that, they're also announced this, which will be available in September as well. This is the Delta Red. These are the characters that Dracula actually transforms into vampire type people who can withstand the Forgotten King's powers and not become undead, because they're already undead. So these guys are fighting for the good guys against the Forgotten King. Now this set is actually designed to go with this set, or I mean any other set too, but it's really designed to be part of this as an army builder set. So you buy one of these, you buy this, you buy a couple of these actually, and you buy a couple of these, you got a couple different versions depending on what pictures you're taking. And I think that is the news. So we added a new little new slide. Every week we're going to give a weekly shout out to one of the YouTube shows we're watching. But before we move on, what's Tim saying? Dang it, Monster Force is going to kill my wallet. But I love the concept of military plus the monsters. I agree. I mean, it's a whole new thing. I mean, I've already done some monster stuff with my Action Force, so you throw these in there with the unique designs and stuff like that, and you add that right with your classifieds and your Valiverse, and you could have a whole, you know, world build without even. I mean, it's going to be a good investment because there's already what 12. I want to say 12, 13 characters for Monster Force already announced that haven't been out yet. So at least they're not doing a Kickstarter. This way we can pre-order them when we want to, and hopefully they don't sell out fast. But knowing BBTS, they usually do pretty well with taking what's pre-ordered and then basically doubling it so they can have enough. So. Hey, that shout out comes at the end there, Lawrence. This weekly shout out is for the YouTube shows that myself or Luke has been watching and are enjoyable. A lot of them I'm going to do are ones that aren't getting as much traffic as some of the other ones do. So, I mean, like, I have no need to shout out Hella Dope Toys. I shout them out all the time anyway. Or, 3POA. Those guys do that all on their own. But this week's weekly shout out is for Random Dioramas Late Night Friday chill stream, as he calls it. Basically, Ratnam just turns on some soft jazz music, brews some tea or drinks some stuff. We all chit chat. He builds some dioramas or does some painting or stuff like that. But there's usually, I mean, he starts at like 11 o'clock on Friday after Payne's Toy Samples. So, I mean, it's not like he's at a prime time, but he still gets 12 to 15 people watching. But it's nice because you have a whole set of different levels of skills in there, right? So you got Random Diorama, who, of course, is a master at building dioramas. Then you have some newbies. You have some people like me that have been doing it for a long time, but don't consider myself an expert. But, we all bounce around ideas. People ask random questions and stuff, and he answers questions without, he's not trying to hide any of his talents or, anything like that, or any of his, tips and tricks and things like that. So anybody that hasn't checked it out, it's on Random Diorama's YouTube channel, and usually starts between 10:30 and 11:30 at night. He's been starting a little later because he doesn't want to take anything away from Payne's Toy Samples, which goes usually from like 9 to 11. But definitely give it a check out if you haven't yet. I mean, even if you pop in just for the first, 10, 15 minutes, it's always an enjoyable stream. Everybody's really chill. Like I said, if you're looking to build some dials, Random gives some excellent tips and tricks. So real quick, let's say hello to Mr. Wonderful, aka well, Luke's supposed to be coming, but I don't know where he is right now. So he said he was having some problems and he's running late. So as long as he isn't calling me to, bail him out of jail or send him money, via Venmo for gas. I mean, if he was looking to buy some hookers, I guess that'd be okay since he just turned 18 on Sunday, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know where he's at. He said he was having problems running late, so hopefully he shows up. If not, we'll just roll with it solo until it's all done. But anyway, welcome, Mr. Wonderful. So funny story. Kind of told some of the guys on Sunday night this after we got done with the Hella Dope live stream. Ted and Aaron and myself and Random Diorama and Mr. Wonderful all stayed on in the backstage and just kind of BS'd for a little bit. And so my son Luke turned 18 on Sunday. And about 4 months ago, he bet me that on his 18th birthday, since he had started going to the gym 4 months ago. Not that he needed it, but he wanted to start bulking up instead of just being a wiry chunk of muscle. But anyway, he bet me that he could beat me in arm wrestling on his birthday. So we made a bet, but we didn't really bet anything, but just bragging rights. Made a bet, waited to put it on the calendar, waited till his birthday, which was Sunday, and then we arm wrestled. And the old guy beat his ass 3 times. So if you see Luke, just happen to say happy birthday and, ask him how the arm wrestling went, since he lost to the old man 3 times. Not just once, 3 times. Hey, Kelly, how are you? No worries on being late. We're just kind of rolling along. My partner in crime's running late, so it's all good, man. Thanks for stopping in. That's another thing, Kelly. On Lawrence's A Punk with Toys stream last night, we were talking about 1/12 scale vehicles, and a bunch of people asking for an A-Team van. So, you get that Gaslands van going. After you get the Bandito going, you guys are going to be doing all right with that. So, and nice press release you guys showed off on Saturday morning too, by the way. I believe that's something he would say, Travis. I believe that's something he would say, trying to make it sound like I actually lost and just in my Alzheimer's or dementia state, just misremembered what happened. Mm-hmm. You're welcome, brother. Not old, vintage. That's right. And I don't even need to get reflocked. I'm still doing good. I don't need any reflocking yet. So, not that I couldn't do it if I had to, but I don't need it right now. So, all right. So anyway, random diorama Friday nights, somewhere between 10:30 and 11:30. He usually kicks it off. Like I said, really cool, chill stream, fun to watch, fun to gain knowledge and talk to all the other guys that are building stuff and what they're building, what they're doing, what they're using. And it's not just foam. I mean, we've talked about the foam dioramas. We talked about using a laser cutter, wood, styrene, resin, like pour resin and 3D printer resin. So, we kind of touch on a lot of topics. So if you guys are looking to build dioramas, even if it's just pieces for a diorama or a play set, pop on in and check it out. I deserve that, Mr. Wonderful, after all the razzing I've given you over the last couple of days. So my Kung Fu grip is good. I beat the young man in arm wrestling, so that's still good too. The hair is good. Kung Fu grip is good. The tool still works. There's nothing more I could ask for, right? Quite honestly, to be completely honest with all you guys, I was pretty bad shape mentally a few years back. I was 327 pounds at my max. The max I ever weighed. I was probably bigger than that, but at the max I weighed was 327 pounds, and completely mentally just a fucked up mess. And got divorced from my wife and really went down into the tank. Decided that I really needed to fix that, and started focusing on myself and stuff like that. So back then I did not feel good. I had no motivation, no confidence, none of it, right? And now I'm 205 pounds and actually in better shape now than I was 3.5, 4 years ago. So everything's working good, Largo. I know that was kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, but anybody wondering if you can change your life and make it better, you most fucking certainly can. No matter what anybody will tell you, that people don't change, that's a load of shit. You can change. You have the power to change. All you got to do is change your mindset. Quit living in the shit and just find what makes you happy. Luke's a lover, not a fighter. He's definitely a lover. He's a poet. He's a romantic. He is tough. Don't get me wrong. It was not like I just destroyed him, because it was a good arm wrestling match. But you know, our my daughter, who's 20, almost 21, was here and refereeing the arm wrestling match, and just told me that I have the typical old man strength, that nobody knows where it comes from. Just dads have strength that they don't, So most of us here are dads. We all get it. Thanks, Mr. Wonderful. Appreciate that. So anyway, we're going to jump into the topic. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out there? Add into it at first? Yeah, before we jump into the topic, let me just throw this out there, since Jim's here. When are we going to see another AT-76 episode, Jim? I've been waiting for it. I keep seeing you post once in a while and on Instagram, things here and there, and I've been waiting for another AT-76 episode. I enjoy those. Actually, let me grab something real quick that I got at PowerCon I want to show everybody. I'll pop this to the next slide so random's not just staring at us. So a lot of us here are, some of us here are old enough to remember the vintage G.I. Joes, the original ones, and the Adventure Team. And then a lot of you guys are younger and remember nothing but the Real American Hero. But somewhere between the Super Adventure Team, which was Bullet Man, Mike Power, and the Super Joe Commander, or yes, Adventure Team Commander, Super Joe, and then that included the Intruders, there's a line called Super Joe, which took the original 12-inch figures down to 8-inch figures. And Super Joe's gimmick was they all had lights in their chest, and they were smaller. They were kind of like a Mego style body. And I had a couple of Super Joes. I had the Super Joe Commander, and I had Gorn, I think his name was, which was the monster with the green monster with the light in his chest, that I got for Christmas from my grandmother that year, when that came out in like 1978, I think. So those were really cool. But anyway, when I was at PowerCon, they actually had a booth that was being run by the guys that do the Kentucky G.I. Joe show. And they were selling these, which they carry these at Cotswold Collectibles now, but they're White Elephant Toys is making these, which are basically remade. Here, let me pop myself full screen. Which are basically reproduction Super Joes. Now, I got this one with the gray hair, which they didn't make a gray-haired version back in the day, but I thought that was pretty cool. So I got the gray-haired version. There's no light in the chest or anything, but for a remake of them, it's pretty cold. But yeah, I got it at PowerCon. I mean, I only paid, I think that PowerCon they were selling them for like $18 or something like that. I don't know how much they cost on Cotswold, but Super Joe, what a cool line that was. Short-lived, but it was a cool line. Yeah, Terron was cool too. He was the 6 or 8 leg monster, right? But yeah, I remember I had Gorn for Christmas. Like I said, that this coming Monday. That's pretty cool. Greg's a good guy. But I had Gorn. I got him for Christmas, and my grandparents had like a split level house, and then they had an upstairs, a real upstairs. And on Christmas Day, of course, my brother was only 2 years older than me. I had a cousin that was the exact same age as I am, and we all were big GI Joe guys. So, and my uncles, who were only a couple years older than my brother, basically had handed us down all their GI Joes, vintage and adventure team stuff. So, well, not all of them, but a lot of it. But anyway, I got the Gorn, and I remember being upstairs because it was me and my brother and my cousin. We all got Super Joe that year, and we were like battling with the lights and everything else. It was just an awesome, awesome time. What a great time to grow up. Yeah, you got to add a Super Joe to the AT-76 for sure. So, yeah, late 70s, early 80s. What a magical time to be a kid. Best cartoons, best toy lines. Just absolutely incredible. Now let's see if I can get this to come back on. Nope. I screwed it up, of course. There we go. All right. So tonight we were talking about wizards, which was the topic Luke wanted to discuss, but since he's not here, should we talk about wizards or should we leave this for Luke next week and talk about something else? Let's take a vote. Do we want to go through the wizards or do we want to say that for Luke and talk about something else? I can talk about anything. You throw a toy line out there, I'll talk about it. Anybody wants to come on and be a guest, I'll send them a link. It's all good. Whatever way you want to do it. Otherwise, I'll just roll through the wizards slides. Let's talk about the Joes. All right, Largo wants to talk about Joes. Okay, we can talk about Joes. We'll save the. Travis says he has nothing to add. And Kelly says Joe's second. He seconds to Joe's. Travis says he has nothing to add. Wizard. Punk, you talk about G.I. Joe all the time. We're going to talk about the real G.I. Joe, not your small ass 3 3/4 shit and your 6-inch classified junk. I'm going on a rant like Chad. That's all. I don't really mean any of that. Sometimes it sucks when you got to keep your mouth shut, huh, Travis? You have a lot of Joes. I know you do. Like 8 shipwrecks and a whole 5-foot long USS flag. So all good, man. So, all right, G.I. Joe. What do we want to talk about? We want to talk about the original 1964 G.I. Joe, created by Don Levine at Hassenfeld Brothers. Went to market as the coined term and trademarked action figure instead of doll, since you couldn't sell dolls to boys. And the marketing plan behind that was, back then, it was called the Razor and Blades marketing. Because what you did is you sold the blade or the razor, which was the G.I. Joe figure, the basic figure, and then you sold the blades that went with the razor, which for G.I. Joe, all the blades were the accessories, the weapons, the uniform kits, and all that stuff, right? So, yeah, let me send you the link, Jim. Hold on a second. I'm going to send it to you via Instagram. Let me just find you here. There you are. All right, Jim, you should have it. Yeah, the Adventures of G.I. Joe. That was one of my favorite times when they still had the hard head. I mean, I love the flocked heads, but when they had the hard painted heads and were switching over to that adventure era, that's when they had like the cool Aquanaut figure and then the basic, adventure guys, which were just tan khakis with a white T-shirt. I'm interested in that. I'll definitely be checking that out, Paul. Real quick, let's say hey to my brother, the Black Knight, Aaron from Hella Dope Toys. Welcome. And of course, the Briscoes here. Briscoe, how you doing? And Fat Red Foo. Yes, this is my chair. This is my favorite chair. I was gifted this chair from my mother. She went and bought 2 of these from this lady who had reupholstered them. And then when she got them in her house, she didn't like them. So I needed an extra chair for my living room. And I was like, yeah, I'll just take one. At that time, I was like, I'll throw a blanket over top of it or whatever. But since I started streaming, everybody loves the chair. So I just use the chair now. All right. Let me let Largo in here. I don't see him. There he is.
Hey.
Hey, Jim.
Can you hear me?
My man.
Yeah, my system's trying to make a liar out of me.
Well, you opened up your mouth and said it's running good. Now it's like, yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, Jinx.
Yeah.
How you doing, Ed?
We're just goofing around with you. It's not running that great. I'm doing well, man.
I'm getting there. I'm literally working on some scripts. And funny you mentioned AT-76 because I've got like 6 in the works. But every time I get going on putting a production together, I either lose internet or electricity or both. So it's been really frustrating the last couple of weeks. So I've got several things half done.
Are you doing another presentation or are you doing an actual photo story?
I'm doing some presentations and working on some new stuff that's kind of kicking my butt with the technology. I've been playing around with some of the AI and making some avatars, kind of like I did with that one Joe trivia where I did the animated Joe. So I'm kind of playing with some more stuff in that realm, but I'm learning the tech. But definitely got Joe on the brain.
Yeah, that was definitely a good episode. Yeah. I like the
because of
whole history lesson, I guess would be the way to put it, right? It wasn't like in depth just one. It was the whole Joe history up to this point.
Yeah, just kind of a brief overview. That's kind of the concept with that series I'm going to be doing is just brief overviews of classic toys, maybe stuff that used to be, hot that people have forgotten or stuff we played with yesteryear. So that's going to be kind of Joe's adventure as he goes in through the Toy Hall of Fame and picks out some winners and puts a little spotlight on them. So I'm having fun with that.
Yeah. So you said that was inspired by the Rochester Museum of Play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I have not, unfortunately. But while I was doing research on Classic Joe, because, I was born in 71, the Joes that I had were, the kind of the tail end of Joe, 75, 76 is when I started getting into it. So there's not much I know about the 60s Joes from real, firsthand experience. So I was just kind of cruising the interwebs looking for, just some brief overview stuff. And I found that Joe was in the hall of the Toy Hall of Fame, as they call it. And so the Strong National Museum of Play has a whole wing where they have toys that they have deemed Hall of Famers, everything from Barbie dolls and teddy bears to Joe to, all kinds of cool stuff from
Mr.
every era.
Up there. The cardboard box is in there.
It's a classic.
Yep.
I remember playing with the boxes that stuff came in as much as I did the stuff that was inside. Yeah.
It was like,
I love the idea of the museum. It has a lot of interactive things. When you go on their website, you can see that this is super awesome.
Yeah, when I took now my kids were little when I used to take them, right? Because I mean they're all Luke is the youngest and he's 18 now. But when they were little, we used to go up there usually at least once or twice during the summertime when the kids were off of school. Because like I said, it's only like an hour and a half from my house. And the first time I went, I was just blown away because like I was more interested in just seeing all the stuff, and looking at all like because they have the museum upstairs, right, which is where basically the Hall of Fame part of it is. But through the entire place, they have like glass cases that just have like random, vintage toys and things like that in there, right? I mean, there was just GI Joe and Star Wars and Mego and all sorts of things just all over the place. It was just like
don't forget the adventure people. They're big.
Yep, adventure people. They were huge there, right? And but like for your kids, right? They have like a whole area where they have like 5 or 10 like little playhouses, with food and stuff that they can make. They have a whole Wegmans, which is a grocery store chain up here. They have a miniature Wegmans. So you can actually get a miniature cart. The kids go through and they can pick out a bunch of stuff. Now, none of it's real, but it's all in real boxes and stuff, right? Put it in their cart, and then they go right to the checkout, and there's workers there that put it all back into a cart, and then of course restock the shelves with it and stuff. They have a whole section of superhero stuff. They have this one really cool thing where you can like walk on this like city, so it looks like you're walking in an actual like comic book city. They have a whole area that's called the butterfly garden, which they have nothing but real butterflies. You walk through and it's just filled up with all sorts of butterflies. They have a bubble world where you go in and it's nothing but bubbles like on Willy Wonka. So
yeah, I love the concept, and I did a little research on the lady who basically inspired the creation of the museum, and her whole thing was we have all these dusty museums for old people. We don't have anything for kids. And it's like, let's get them excited about imagination and play and celebrate that. And the whole museum is all about that. So it's really cool. Great idea. So it's like Joe is a classic toy and he's going to be reviewing classic toys. So it just seemed like a good fit.
Yeah, it's a great concept. Tomorrow morning, I will find my thumb drive with all my pictures from the museum on there, and I'll send you some of the ones with Joe in it and stuff. Some of the other ones.
That'd be awesome.
But I'll send you some real pictures. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a really cool place for sure. So yeah,
but,
Joe was kind of left an indelible mark on a lot of us kids that were born. Like I said, my uncles were probably like, action figure age in the 66, 67, 68 era. One's 2 years older than the other. And my older uncle was really interested in the military Joe. My younger uncle, which like I said was 2 years, was more into the adventures of and then into the adventure team Joes. So like the first Joes I ever got were actually hand-me-downs, and they were all, war torn and, adventure beat already. And then like even after 76, when the line was actually dead, a lot of the stores still had the figures that were on the bubble cards, especially the commanders, just the regular AT commanders coming out. Me and my brother got those probably like, I want to say my birthday or something, maybe Easter in 77 or 78, somewhere in that area. And, that was like so cool. I mean, I remember so much that and then the Defenders came out. Remember the Defenders, which were like, basically like a Barbie doll, really cheap below molded plastic, using up all the Joe accessories though, right? And those guys, a lot of those had beards too. And I remember as a kid, I thought you had to actually have a beard in order to be in the military, because that was just like, everything back then was like that way, right?
Yeah. Growing up in the military, every time we'd go to the PX or the exchange on base, they still had a lot of old stock. You could still find, the 12-inch Joes well into the early 80s in a lot of places. So, I definitely had a good collection as a kid, but, when you move around a lot, because, Dad would get stationed all kinds of different places, things go to the wayside and, they get beat up. And after a while, they just kind of disappear. It's like, have you seen my Joe? It's like, you mean the one that had an arm missing and it was, kind of just hanging on by a thread? It's like, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, like, I remember my younger uncle, who was really into the Adventure Team stuff, he had given me and my brother like a couple of his, more beat up ones, right? Maybe threw a pair of shorts on them and a t-shirt or something, right? That was about what we got, but they
Right.
were still cool, right? We were still excited. And then
Yeah.
when he went into the Marine Corps, which was probably like 78, 79, he came back home. Now he's an artist, right? I mean, he never did anything professionally, but I mean, you ask him to draw or, whatever. I mean, he had interviews at Marvel, had interviews at Disney and stuff like that,
Wow.
never took the jobs because he didn't want to move. Didn't want to move away from home after he got back from the
Wow.
service. And of course, he went to Marvel. They wanted him to draw their way and he wanted to do it his way, which is a lot of artists have that struggle, but you remember back in the day, they used to have like the probably 12-inch tall, like Universal Monster model kits.
Yeah.
Remember, you could put them together and they were like in a swamp or, Dracula was like in a tomb kind of setting or something like that, right?
Yeah. I
And
love the ones that were glow in the dark. Those were pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Being an artist, of course, he had them painted so they looked just like, something that stepped out of the movies, So anyway, he went to the Marines and came back home, and Grandma had sold off his entire Universal model collection, his entire GI Joe collection, because she cleaned out the attic, and he had been saving that stuff. Man, he was livid.
Oh, I imagine.
You ask him about it to this day, his face still turns red.
I think that's part of the reason I became a collector. Yeah, as an adult, is because my parents had this philosophy of, hold on to things loosely. If, Dad was like, if it doesn't fit in a duffel bag, I don't care. It's just, they didn't hold on to stuff that just wasn't in their mindset. So
that's a military
for me,
thing, that, right? I mean, like when I was in the Army, man, if it couldn't fit into my green duffel bag in a backpack, it wasn't going with me. It
wasn't going. Yeah.
I mean, there were so many guys, they'd be ETSing out and they'd be like, hey, you want my stereo system? Yeah, how much you want for it? $5. I just want to get rid of it. And there was like a $200 stereo system, but they didn't want to carry it with them. Okay, here you go.
Yep, that is definitely the mindset. But when I bought my first house, first house, and finally had a place to put stuff, I filled it with stuff. Cool stuff.
What was the first figure when you started collecting again? What was it?
It was Superman. I picked up, I think, which version? Yeah, it was the Mattel, back when they had the DC universe or multiverse line.
Yep.
I think that was one of the first ones I picked up. And always been a big, DC Comics, Super Friends kind of fan. So that was kind of my gateway back into collecting. But as a kid, yeah, the Mego superheroes and the GI Joes were, that was our thing until Micronauts kind of came on the scene. And then all of a sudden there's all these little plastic guys from Star Wars. Hadn't seen the movie yet, but they suddenly invaded the shelves. And it's like, I don't know. It was a tough transition to go from, 12-inch to 8-inch to 3 1/4. It's like, or 3.75. I'm like,
For me, the 3.75 thing wasn't that bad because I had grown up on Adventure People. I mean, I started getting Adventure People when they first came out. Like I said, the Fisher Price company was in Holland, New York, and that's 15 minutes from my house. And I had relatives that worked there, and so the first year Adventure People came out, I got tons of that stuff. It was just wasn't that hard of a transition for me. But the scale thing was hard though, because like I wanted to play with everything all at once and I couldn't, right? I mean, that was
exactly. It's like I had them segregated. It's like, I had the Adventure People and a few like Buck Rogers and I think Black Hole figures when they came out for a minute.
Yeah.
Just kind of random stuff, but I never really thought of them as playing. Joe was a separate time to play. You take Joe out in the woods and, you have, it was a different thing, because of the scale issue. So, and then, so some of those random Adventure People that survived, they eventually made it into, play with some of the new Star Wars stuff. And I didn't see the first film, and, when it came out in theaters. So I had like the story book on tape kind of deal. So that was kind of like my entrance to Star Wars. So
yeah, me too.
Didn't really understand the whole storyline. I'm just like, cool spaceships, little guys. Okay, I can work with this.
Yep.
So they became, whatever play for that moment. A lot of times they would end up as superheroes because I
Oh
was,
yeah,
still stuck in the superhero brain.
yeah.
So like
My
C3PO was Iron Man because he was shiny and metal.
I had a lot of just like basic, overall storylines, right? Like I remember Obi-Wan Kenobi was basically like this, just a king kind of figure, right? Because he was like in this regal looking robe thing. So to me, he wasn't, a Jedi. I didn't go see a Star Wars movie. I think I saw A New Hope when it came out on HBO when my grandparents had cable TV, which was maybe like 1981, 1980, 81. That was the first time I ever saw it, right? Before that, like
Yeah.
you, I had the storybooks and stuff, and I didn't really know anything about the story. So the
Yeah.
figures were just added in.
Yeah, it wasn't until Empire that I really got a grasp of what Star Wars was all
Yep.
about. And so I think that's probably why Empire is my favorite movie because I was more
Yeah.
engaged with it.
Yeah. Jedi is probably my favorite. And that was the first one I saw in theaters on the big screen. So that was, I was 10 years old when that one came out. So it was like,
Man, I keep saying friends don't let friends play with Ewoks, man. They're just wrong. They're just wrong. Should have been Wookiees.
as a 10-year-old, man, I thought the Ewoks were the coolest thing in the world. I had like the figures, I had a couple of the stuffed animals, I just thought the Ewoks were the coolest thing. Now, had the Ewoks been done the way that George Lucas really wanted to do them to begin with, and they were cannibal teddy bears, that would have been awesome, right? But that's not what he only hinted
Right.
at that during the thing. And
Yeah,
Mr.
my
Wonderful
loathing.
explained to us that, Barf and Vespa and what happened in
Oh yeah,
Spaceballs was ripped off by Star Wars, and
I would have loved to have had that Winnebago. That would have been awesome.
oh yeah, absolutely. That was the one where they too also did the alien coming out of the dude's stomach in the diner? He started
Oh yeah,
singing
doing the little
"Hello, my
song and
baby."
dance. Yep.
Good times,
Yeah.
good times.
It's like don't have the special. But yeah,
But
Mel Brooks, good stuff.
yeah. So, were you ever into the Super Joes? Did you have those?
I vaguely remember Super Joe, but he was kind of an oddball. I think I'd gotten a Super Joe for Christmas one year, and it was kind of like he doesn't fit with my Big Joes. He doesn't fit with my Migos because he
Yeah.
wasn't quite Migo scale either.
Yep.
He was just kind of by himself. So, yeah, I can see why the line didn't last more than a year because it
Well,
was just it didn't.
Migo was also killing their lines, going to the pocket-sized superheroes and the Micronauts,
Yeah,
and they were also doing I think 77 or 78 when they launched the Eagle Force, which was 2-inch diecast figures. So I mean
yeah,
they were kind of getting away from that scale. And then you also had Big Jim, right, which is shorter also because he was only like 7.5 to 8 inches, and Super Joe was like 8.5 to 9 or something like that. So yeah, that
yeah.
was kind of a
Big Joe
weird
was
time.
kind of trippy. Big
Yeah.
Joe was one of those that I kind of he was in the periphery. I had one or two, but I
Yep.
didn't have the whole story
Yeah.
behind it. It's like he started out as like a rough and tumble guy in the woods, or he'd be a kick
Yeah.
karate guy one week, or a tennis
Yep.
champion or whatever. That didn't get to me. But when they did the Wolf Pack, when he
Yeah.
he had his team together and he got the Corvette and all that stuff, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, at
Wolfpack
first
now.
I think they tried doing like a competition for Super Joe and for the Adventure People with how he's like,
Yeah.
in the woods and in the campers and all that stuff, a sports guy. And that wasn't working. So then let's introduce some villains, and the Wolfpack was
Yeah.
created. Then it became cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of his early stuff, you look at those commercials now and it's like, that was not good marketing because it kind of gave some weird, Joe, Big Jim enjoys some quality man time with his man friends out in the woods a little too much. It's
Yeah.
like, where are we going for here, guys? I'm not getting it.
The crazy thing is like they used a lot of the Big Jim accessories were just Barbie accessories redecoed. So it was like, it was easy for Mattel to do it. And the scale wasn't that far off that any of us cared back then, right? I
Yeah.
remember, do you remember the big Tonka Jeeps and Broncos they made back in the 70s?
Oh
They were
yeah.
like
Those
had the
they're like,
plastic
yeah.
top, but everything else was solid metal.
Oh yeah, you
Now,
could hurt somebody with those things. That was
oh
a
yeah.
good weapon. You could pretty much use it as a skateboard. I mean, they
Yep.
were built solid.
Oh shit. Yeah. I still have mine, but I I remember that was my truck for my Joes, and then it became my truck for my Super Joes and my Migos, which they were still a little too small for that. But then in 78 or 79, when the 12-inch Star Wars came out, I got Luke Skywalker and he had his grappling hook, So then Joe and Luke Skywalker were in my red Jeep, and my grandmother lived in this place that had a lot of woods, and the whole woods just went basically downhill, right? You started at the top and the whole thing went downhill, but it was all my cousins all had dirt bikes and stuff. They were older than me. So I would go on their dirt bike trails with that Jeep, and I just roll that thing down the damn hill. And I mean, of course, it rolled like 5 feet, then the rest of the way it just kind of tumbled, But,
Tumbled, yeah. But it's Tonka. It's built tough. It's going to survive.
Took the hell out of that thing. So,
that reminds me. I picked up one of those when they were doing the Halo 12-inch stuff from the Microsoft game. I picked up one of those Warthogs for the 12-inch. It's too narrow for Joe, but that Super Joe you picked up, I'm thinking it's probably a good scale for him.
Yeah, it probably actually is. I know Jeff at Skunkworks there did 2 of them, and I think he had the same problem. He could fit them in there, but it was, a really tight fit.
Yeah, it's a really tight fit because they're made for those like shampoo bottle things.
Yeah, this guy would probably fit in there real well. So, and he's
I'm thinking I might
fully posable.
Yeah, I might pick one of those up just to tinker with it and redo that Warthog for Super Joe. I think that would be cool.
They have, I don't know how many they have on Cotswold, but if you go to White Elephant Toys, they sell them directly there too. They have a ton of different versions of him, different suits, different hair colors, beards, no beards, the whole thing. So.
Yeah, I like the whole, build a Joe kind of concept they have, where it's like, you want this head, you want that body, you want this suit. Yeah, we'll put it together. You just pick your parts,
Yep.
So
that's one thing I really like about Cotswold too, like with their a lot of their stuff, right? Because you can just order the body. It's not Joe, of course, but it's still a Joe figure basically, and then pick the clothes you want, the uniform you need, whatever, and you got what you're looking for, right? But
yeah, unfortunately, some of the stuff there, I missed the boat on. I got in, a little too late. Some of those, was it not Huxtable? What's the name of the guy that does the 3D printed?
Oh, Huckster.
Huckster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked at some of his stuff, like the fan jetpack.
Oh yeah,
and some of the other cool stuff, and it was like,
I wasn't in a financial position when that was all going on. I really wanted that jetpack too, with the propeller jetpack. That thing was awesome. So
yeah, I did pick up a couple of these papercraft things. This is the command module for the 1.6.
Oh yeah.
I'm afraid to open it because my workbench right now is covered in Action Force stuff from kit bashing. It's like I need to clean everything off, open this thing up, make sure I've got my tools ready, because it's been a long time since I've done papercraft like this. Yeah. And I watched some of Jeff's videos. He said they're a little persnickety to put together.
Yeah. I put I actually used he makes a 1/12 scale Space Command Center, and I use that in my space shuttle Dio. I didn't build it exactly the way it needed to be built. I kind of fudged it, built some of it the right way, but the rest of it I kind of fudged. But it's a really nice set. Unfortunately, I don't know how he's doing, but drawing a blank on the guy's name. But he had, I think he was sick with cancer or something like that for a while. But the guy that does that from that, his name's on the whatever he calls himself there, the labs thing.
Mad Randall?
Mad Randall. There it is. Yeah. Randall's a good guy, but
yeah, I like his designs. They're very reminiscent of, sci-fi from the 70s, early 80s, as far as his design. So it really fits the aesthetic of Joe, the Adventure Team Joes.
It's really nice because they give you there's a filament paper in there, so the light shines through it, but you can still see the picture on there, and they include the little flashing LED light and everything. So it's a really nice sets for what you buy, right? And if you build them right, like Jeff has, they come out really nice looking. So
yeah, that's why I'm a little leery. It's like they're not cheap, and if you make a mistake, it's a costly one. So it's like if
you lived in the States, I'd say send it to Jeff. He'll build it for you. But since you don't live in the States, I don't know if he's going to do that for you.
Well, that's kind of cheating. I mean, half the fun is figuring the thing out.
Yep.
And then cursing yourself when you screw it up.
Yeah.
So
that one thing, I didn't watch Jeff's video where he said to cut the line on the right side before you fold it. You know, like
Oh, or
so when
score
you
it.
score it. So when it folds clean and it doesn't like stretch the paper. So when I was doing mine, I didn't watch that, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, thanks, Jeff.
Oh,
Now you tell us, bastard.
yeah.
I remember
I love Jeff's how-to videos because
oh yeah,
he's so down to earth. He's like,
yep,
this is the way I do it, and this works. And if you can't
yep,
figure this out, you're an idiot. But it's
yep,
okay.
yep.
I was like, thanks, Jeff. Okay.
So Cotswold, when I first started ordering from them, you'd have to send away through the mail for the catalog, right? And then you got the catalog, and each catalog had like no pictures, just words, you know, and they're all separated by section, you know, so weapons and, you know, uniforms and Cotswold stuff, vintage pieces, you know, and each one had like an item number. You'd have to actually call them over. They were in Washington State at that point in time. Have to call over to Washington State, give them all the numbers, either send a check to them through the mail, which at the time I didn't have a credit cards or a debit card. So once I started doing that, I went and got a debit card from the bank. But at that point, I didn't. So first couple orders, I had to send a check. I mean, it was like a month-long process, right? So there's things I'd order. I totally forget what I ordered by the time they come in. I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. And then there was Project R, which was capital ARE. They had some really nice stuff. And Tom Calhoun, I can't remember what the name of his site was, but you've probably seen a couple of pictures of like with my canoe
Mm-hmm.
that I have. I got that from his site. It's actually a canoe model you could buy anywhere, but he used to have some really nice like adventure team stuff too, you know, tents, backpacks, uniform stuff, accessories, you know, grappling hooks, all that stuff. So
Oh yeah, I'm such a Johnny come lately. There's so many guys that have done some great, grassroots production, whether it be 3D printing or hand stitched
yep.
uniforms or what have you. It's like Paul Knapp and his buddies. Those guys have got some hardcore collections of
Oh yeah.
12-inch Joe stuff, and they have, such a circle of friends who are like, "Hey man, you need this part for this thing,"
Yep.
and we'll figure it out. It's like, cool.
Yep.
So yeah, as I've said before, meeting you guys from the Axis of Awesome and some of the other guys who are into collecting the big Joes since I've been out of it for so long, everybody's like, hey, man, if you're interested, yeah, here's some resources. Here's some places to go.
Yep.
You got questions? Sure, no problem. So I like that.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's a cool community.
The guys in the Axis Awesome are really cool, down to earth guys. I used to do a lot of Facebook Joe groups, but everything got really political there as far as like, if you're on the military Joe's page, you can't go you can't put adventure team stuff. And if you're on the adventure team stuff, you can't put the military stuff.
Right.
And if you're on
Speaking of military guys, you got Jeremy J in your
look at that. Jeremy J's here. What's up, JJ?
Good to see you.
Yeah. And if you're in either one of those groups, you can't put anything custom in there because those are diehard,
right.
Everybody's
got a pigeonhole and gatekeep.
It was like, my God, and these guys would get in battles about, how Vintage Joe was better than Adventure Team Joe and flocking sucked and, paint hair sucks. And
right.
Like, wow. But,
yeah,
a lot of the guys like that Jeff hangs out with, it's all.
Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of like, looking at where I'm kind of pivoting with topics and content on the channel. It's like, I love Chad. I love his rants. And a lot of times I totally agree with him. But it's like, I just want to talk about cool toys that we can all agree on. So that's why I'm kind of going back to vintage. I'm like, let's look at the classic stuff that everybody liked before all this, everybody got into one camp or another. And, what's the middle ground? And so that's kind of what I'm looking for,
Yep.
I can't do toy reviews on new stuff because shipping here is, by carrier pigeon and,
by the time you get
snail.
to that stuff anyway, it's already been done 15 million times over, it's like,
it's like how many times can you talk about the same articulation points? Right. It's like, I know how an elbow and a knee works. Yeah.
I usually watch for reviews. I'll watch Punk with Toys for G.I. Joe and his gargoyles and some of the other stuff he reviews. And then I'll watch like Ratface James there, 44.
Yeah, I like his he puts a lot of pizzazz in his production when he puts his reviews together. It's fun to watch.
So other than that, I mean, like I said, every other review is just the same, right? Here's the here's your T pose, here's your elbow articulation. I'm like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
like the 17th time. And it's worse when, new figures get launched. Then it's just, day after day after day after day, the same thing. So I don't do a lot of reviews. I actually started watching more of like vintage toy, things just because they're more interesting to me than, a lot of the new stuff.
Yeah.
I have the new stuff. I don't need to know how a Mezco poses because they all pose the same. I don't need to know how a
Exactly.
Veliverse poses. They all pose the same, right? It's like
That's
I
like
love them, but
Ken.
I don't need to watch them.
Yeah, Ken from Toy Connections. He does
Yeah.
a lot of toy histories of
Yep.
Transformers and stuff. He
Yeah, I've
turned
been
me on
watching a
to
lot.
Adam. Yeah, Adam from Go Figure. I love what he does because he'll look at vintage and say, well, I've got this cool piece that needs some love. It's a little broken. How can I create new parts, or how can I redo this and reimagine it in some way with just, inexpensive bits?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, he does some cool, neat, imaginative
Yeah.
stuff. And that's a lot of fun.
That's
I
one of the
love it
things,
when
like,
you can take a broken toy and turn it into something new or
yeah,
exciting,
that's what Jeff does best, right? I mean, that's one
Yeah.
of the, I mean, Jeff and I used to get on, Facebook Messenger and we bounce ideas back and forth for hours about, hey, I got this gun, I'm going to do this, and then he'd email me pictures of what he did. I'd email him pictures, it's like Ken
Yeah.
Poe is an animal. Yes, that guy
Ken is
is
a
an
rock
animal.
star.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
I'll get on
And
Oz's
he's,
stream on Saturday
yeah,
nights and Ken will come on at like 4 a.m. I'm like,
I
Ken, what are you
know.
doing? And he's like, oh, he's like wide awake. I'm like, wow, ready to go.
It's like, I can totally understand getting creative energy and or insomnia when you're working on something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get an idea for a video or something I want to do, and I'm looking around for props and things, and I'm like, man, I just need to talk to somebody. Everybody's asleep, so it's like I'll kind of look through Instagram, see who's active, and say, hey, man, I'm working on this thing. What do you think? It's like, dude, it's 2 a.m. It's like,
Yeah.
And
When I used to do a lot of custom figures, and now like with my dials, I have that problem, right? When I start a project, I could start it at 7 a.m. today. And if it's not finished, I will go until I consider it finished. And that's if I got to walk away for 2 hours, I'll put it in front of a fan so the paint dries faster because it's got to be done. I can't walk away from it. I'm not as bad now as I
yep,
used to be, but for a long time, I mean, there was days I would sit down at 7 a.m. and work until, of course, I do things with the wife and the kids and stuff, and then go right back at it when everybody went to bed at 9 o'clock, and I was up till 5 in the morning.
yep,
Kids will get the
like
kids on the bus, go lay down for an
yeah,
hour, and
like Travis is pointing out, Ken loves his wrestling, and I do not, I don't have the knowledge. I watched a little as a kid, and I knew a couple of guys, but I didn't really get hardcore into it. But he gets very passionate when you start talking about wrestling.
yeah, he's come on to Oz's stream a couple times carrying his belt and stuff like that, and
Oh yeah,
Oz will always be like, "Hey, that's not the right show," and he's like, "Just getting ready for the next one."
you
But he's got a
can't.
nice collection too. He's
Oh
really
yeah,
launching Delta 17, right? He's
Delta
working.
17.
Yeah.
If anybody was going to get me excited about getting back into 3.75, it's Delta 17. I love the concept. I love the storyline that they're working on. The designs are cool. I've really been following that, and my buddy Will, he's totally into 118.
Oh, yeah.
So that's his bread and butter. He's just salivating, waiting to get a hold of these guys. I'm like,
Well, they're in production
simmer
or something
down,
now,
buddy.
aren't they? I think Ken said
They are.
Said they're, yeah.
They just got through doing the final proofs on what the packaging is going to look like. They're in production, and they're ready to hit the ground running. And I like the fact that they have enough confidence in what they're doing. They're not doing any kind of crowdfunding. They don't need it.
Yep.
They know this thing's going to stand, and it's just waiting for it to hit the market. I know there's a lot of challenges with dealing with overseas factories and shipping and all that kind of stuff, but
It's the perfect time for it though. Now that Hasbro isn't doing Joe in that scale, right? I mean,
yeah,
even
it's
when
like
they were redoing the Real American Hero, they were 4-inch, right?
Yeah, they went to, I think they call that like the Generation 3 body, which was the 50th and the 25th anniversary. They went to a 4-inch scale, and then Marauders kind of borrowed that idea and then created their own version. Yeah, 118. There's a lot of, I love 118 because of vehicles, play sets,
Yeah.
all the things you can do with that scale. It's just not feasible in the bigger scales. I have a Joe Jeep, but it takes up a whole freaking shelf
Oh yeah, for sure.
because of scale. I've got some other bits that I've added for my Action Force, 1/12 stuff, but that Vanguard's going to take another shelf, which
Yeah.
I'm cool with because it looks awesome. But
Yep.
it's like I have infinite space or limited space, not infinite. The playlist is infinite. That's about it. And limited budget. So it's just like, give and take, man. I've got a little smattering of stuff here. I've got a couple of gargoyles because they're cool. I've got some monster stuff. I've got some Batman 66 stuff. I've got some, Scooby Gang and Super Friends, and they're all vying for space.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I started getting into the, the big guys. I'm like, dude, I need another room. My wife's like,
Yeah.
no.
When I was in the mid 90s, when the G.I. Joe 12-inch resurgence took place, I mean, like that's when Joe came out with Classic Collection. 21st Century Toys was huge. I only had one kid at the time, so I had a whole room that was mine. I had my computer in there, and everything else was just bookshelves and stacks. And I
Right.
had two 21st Century Toys Jeeps, one
Yeah.
Hasbro Willys. I had four of the 21st Century Toys Humvees, two of their AH-6 Little Bird helicopters, and then a
Oh,
bunch of their
man.
motorcycles. And
And when they first came out, they weren't an arm and a leg. They were reasonably
no,
priced.
they were, you could buy
Secondary
the Little
market,
Bird
they're
for
crazy.
$100, and the
That is on my.
Hummers were like 60.
Oh yeah, that is so on my wish list. I picked
Yeah.
up the 21st century Vietnam era Jeep because I liked
you got
it
the
fit
Mutt,
more.
right?
I got the Mutt because I
Yeah.
said, I'm going for a late 70s, early 80s adventure team. The Mutt is where it's at. It
Yeah.
totally makes sense. I'd love to get one of those little birds because that
Yeah.
for the air adventurer, that's paint that bad boy yellow, put an AT
Yep.
on the side. Oh
A
baby,
lot of people did that, man. And
yeah,
they look good, but they're
But-
huge expensive now. I mean,
yeah.
crazy expensive. But even the Hummers, I
So
mean, like I said, the Hummers were $60 at Toys R Us and Target, and then you
yeah,
had Soldiers of the World, which was the knockoff brand. Their figures sucked, but like they were making quality Willys Jeeps back then, and you could pick
yeah,
those up at Target for like $27, and they were
yeah, and it's
quality
like
Jeeps.
I wasn't collecting at that scale at that time. And I remember walking by that stuff, and saying,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. And, now I'm like
Yeah.
kicking myself going, dude,
Yeah, I know when I got
had
out
a
of
Wayback Machine.
I got out of a lot of that stuff. I sold so much of it, and it's like, because I didn't have a room. I had kids, right? It's like, well, he's like, something's got to go. I'm like, well, I guess I'll start selling the stuff off, right? And I saved like some of my vintage Joes and things that meant stuff to me, but like most of the vehicles, I had no place for them. So I was like, well, let them go to a good home. I was making deals with guys on Facebook and stuff so they could, because I wanted to go to a place that was going to be enjoyed, and
Exactly.
so
It's like
I sold it
I
for
have,
a lot. If I had it now, I'd be a millionaire. I mean,
oh man, those things are worth a mint now. But I remember you couldn't give those things away for a while. Everything went
nope,
on
good,
clearance.
right?
And then
Yep.
when Toys R Us was, going the way of the dodo, everything must go. And a lot of that Soldiers of the World and 21st century stuff, I remember you buy it for
Yep.
a song.
Oh yeah.
I've got the Click and Play Little Bird on a wire over my desk, and I've got their Black Hawk, and they're awesome. And of course,
Yeah.
118 because
Yep.
super affordable, decent detail.
Yeah.
And I've got Wild Bill flying the Little Bird, and I've got, I don't know who's in the Black Hawk. I think I've got a Steel Brigade guy in there.
Some of the Click and Play stuff they have on the 12-inch size isn't that pricey either, though. I mean, like the figures are pretty decent for 19. Well, they were like $20. I think they're 25 now. But
I haven't tinkered with those because I wasn't sure about the articulation, what kind of body style they had on
the
them.
new bodies
they
are
look
great.
cool.
They're just like a super articulated body. I mean, they'll pose any way you want. It's one of those things, right? If you give it to a kid who plays with it, the articulation is going to wear out, right? But for a collector who's just posing it, I mean, they're quality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even some of these guys, these are some of the Walmart redos that came out, and they look great. But right out of the package, he's got loose hips. I'm like, dude, right out of the package. So he'll need some TLC at some point. But I love him because this was my first Joe as a kid, was the Land Adventurer. He's got that particular camouflage style, and it's just iconic. So I love him. I've got a few other pieces. So I'm like strategically putting together the team. It's like I can't have everybody, but
Yeah.
I've picked up a few villains here and there that I think will fit with them. And I've looked at other things from other lines that would totally fit with Joe. So I picked up Danger Girl because
Yep.
she's awesome. I picked up Captain Action because he totally fits with that
Gotta
style.
have Captain Action. He was actually that body was actually created by Don Levine too, who was actually the designer of G.I.
Yeah.
Joe. So
I started looking into that. I'm like, yeah, totally. He's, it totally fits. And then, of course, eventually I want to get into the UK Palatoy Action Man, at least one or two examples to have them, because it's part of the history.
Yep. The Action Mans are really nice, especially like I really like the Action Man style of their later muscle body as they, like the lifelike body that they made is actually nicer than the muscle bodies that Hasbro made. So
yeah,
and they're actually the ones that came up with the flocking.
I was going to say, it's so cool. Palatoy was an innovator. Hasbro would share a license with them, and they'd say, "Well, that's nice. Hold my beer.
Yeah,
let me fix this." And they did the flocking. They come up with Eagle Eye. They come up with the new body style. And we're like, yeah, and we're going to reward you by basically selling you off to a cereal company or something.
Yep.
So
well, the other thing is like Classico's Falcon, who is I think that was South America, right?
Brazil.
They were actually using the vintage Joe body with vintage Joe style heads and flock up until like 2001 or something like that when they shut down. Now they're back open again. Somebody else bought them, but I mean, they were still in the stores and down there, and you could get them on Cotswold. Of course, if you got them on Cotswold, they were a lot more expensive than buying them down south. But
I have been looking for a decent Eagle Eye, and those Brazilian Falcons are probably a good way to go.
Yep, for sure.
I'm not quite in that area, but I know people who might go that way, and I'll see if I can get one, without having to deal with international shipping.
Yeah. When when Action Man released, they released they had their Action Man back out in stores and in the UK. And in the UK, we were getting some of the stuff here, but it wasn't that great. But they released some James Bond Action Man sets as a thing.
I saw. Yeah, Tony was talking about those on Analog Toys, and they're so cool.
My sister went over to the UK for a semester of college right at that time, and I told her, if you could find one of those, get me one of those when you're over there, right? And it was kind of funny because like the figure was going to be like $25 at the store or whatever,
right?
But it would cost her more in customs and stuff to have it brought back than just
yeah, like, it's crazy. When I first moved here to Guatemala, shipping wasn't a big deal, but between the CUF and everything else going on in the world, the tariffs on bringing things into the country have skyrocketed, including trying to get toys. So right now I've got a lot of stuff sitting at friends' houses in the States, and it's like I just can't bring stuff in here right now. It's too expensive. So I'm trying to work out a new shipping arrangement, and it's frustrating, but when I first moved here, I wasn't hardcore into collecting or doing YouTube or anything else. So it wasn't a big deal. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
One of the about 3 years ago, just a funny story about getting back into collecting. I might have told you the story, but I'll tell you again for the rest of the people watching. So I have a good friend. His name's Jason. We worked together at the company that I just left recently. For many, many years, we worked together. And he took a job at our corporate, moved to Columbus, Ohio, and was working down there. Well, he had a friend named Adam, who he went to school with, and I had met Adam a couple of times, and Adam had this friend, his name was Lee. Now, Adam and Lee did time like together over in Saudi and other places, not in the military, but as private contractors for the government, and
we gotta take a break and explain to Jeremy, because he had to step out for a minute. So he wants us to go all the way back to the beginning. Well, the Earth was formed, and then it cooled, and then the dinosaurs came, and then they died, and they turned into oil, and then the Arabs came, and that's
pretty much sums it all up. And then humans took over, and we ruined everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I never met this Lee guy. I talked to him a couple times, like online and stuff, because we were doing like some, group chats and shit like that. But so a couple years ago, it's been 3 years now. Every year we go on these men's retreats, right? It's the four of us guys, me and Jason, my buddy,
Yeah.
and then
Kind of like a team building kind of deal.
Yeah, we just go on these retreats. We talk about, we have plans like in the future to buy a big chunk of land in Tennessee and build a compound and basically live off the grid, because we're all that type of guy, right? And so we were in Tennessee, and Lee's my age. He's 50, and Jason and Adam are both like 45, I want to say. So they're a few years younger than us. So they were totally missed the 12-inch Joe phase, right? They're big 3 3/4-inch Joes, but missed the 12-inch Joes. But I had no idea that Lee was a toy collector at this point in time, or an enthusiast anyway. Let's put it that way. So it's like 2:00 in the morning. It's a beautiful night out in the Tennessee mountains in October. Him and I are sitting out back on this porch, smoking some cigarettes and having a couple of beers and just chilling and stuff. And we start talking about something, and I said something about toys, and he goes, "Yeah, I think we were just talking about like how great it was growing up in the '70s and stuff, right?" And he's like,
"We did have cool stuff."
Yeah. He's like, "Man, I wish I could get, my toys back together from when I was a kid," right? He's like, "I have this one toy. It was the first thing I got from, my grandma or something. It meant everything in the world to me. And it's in pieces and I can't do anything with it." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" Right? Thinking it's going to be like Amigo or something like that. Right? I was like, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "Oh, I don't really know what it is. I know it's G.I. Joe, but I don't know what it is. But it had like hair and it has this body, right?" I'm like, "Dude," I was like, "Is it this?" Right? And I started rambling off all this stuff. He's like, "That's exactly what it is." I was like, "You get home, you mail it to me. I'll put it back together for you. I'll refurb the whole thing for you." Right? He's like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." So he sent it to me. I redid the flock, repainted the head, cleaned it all up, redid the lips, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
I had an actual vintage Man of Action uniform already, so I bought a sticker for the chest, found a pair of, I think I had an extra pair of boots too. The only thing I ended up having to buy was I bought a Cotswold Repro shoulder holster because this had the hard hands. And then I had
How about the boots?
I had the revolver. I had boots.
Yeah, I was going to say boots split
yeah.
pretty bad in the originals.
I had at that point in time, I had a lot of vintage stuff left, collection. I mean, tons of boots, right? So I found two that were the same boot, and they were Joe boots, and they weren't split, out of 100 pairs or whatever it was, And so, like I said, the only thing I ended up having to order was the shoulder holster, and I ordered a Repro Adventure Team dog tag. Everything else was absolutely vintage, and put it all back together for him. Sent him a picture of it. He was like, "Oh my God." He showed he showed his mom, his sister, all of his cousins and all this stuff. And then sent it back to him and didn't think anything of it. So when I went to PowerCon, I went to Cleveland where his mom passed away last year. And now he stays at her house for a while, then goes back to his condo in Maryland and then goes back there for a little while. But he knew I was going to PowerCon. So I went to Cleveland for a couple of days and stayed with him. And he's got, I think, 22 12-inch Joes. Every version of like the Adventure Team, basically, right? So all the originals, like
nice.
All the original hard hands and all the original Kung Fu grips. He's got a Mike Power, and the only one he needs now is Bullet Man. Then he'll have the entire collection. And then he's
Man's tough.
Yeah, he's bought every vehicle completely original, mint complete, every play set. So he's got the mobile transport, the Adventure Team's headquarters, the several different versions of the ATV. And I'm like, I thought you only wanted the one that you were caring about when you remembered. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Don't blame it on me, dude, that you've spent, hundreds of dollars on each one of these figures." Cause I mean, like, he doesn't go, piece it all together. He's like, "Yeah, I want this. I'm just going to buy the whole thing all together." So
yeah.
And now he's starting to collect classifieds. I'm like,
oh man. Yeah. I only have one hard hand. I have the reproduction that the G.I. Joe collectors team put out a few years ago. One of my friends had an extra in his collection. He's like, "You want this one?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." So he's my one bro, Joe. And I love this guy. I love the fro. I love the design.
Yeah.
I always felt like he got the short end of the shaft though, because he was just adventurer. Everybody's land adventurer, sea adventure. He's just generic adventurer. It's like, really?
Yeah, I don't
So
know if
we're gonna have to
I
give him a
think
job.
Hasbro was struggling with what to call him because, back in the
Yeah.
70s, being a black
I'm
guy was,
thinking I'm thinking urban adventurer. We're gonna give him a leather trench coat and some chains and just give him the 70s kung fu,
yeah.
black exploitation look. He'll be the urban adventurer.
Well, they did
Because
in the Adventures of G.I. Joe line. I mean, they gave the black dude the black cable knit sweater with blue jeans and a beret.
yeah,
It's like,
it's like
oh, Hasbro.
totally not Black Panthers at all. No,
Nope.
we're not insinuating anything.
No.
But yeah,
Oh,
they've had a few missteps, but man, there's some fun stuff there, and the customizing and the uniforms and the imagination can go wherever you want it to.
I love
So those
taking
are a lot of
pictures in
fun.
1/6 scale. I mean, that was my jam for a long time. But I went to 112 just because I wanted to build dios and stuff, and I built the one dio
Yeah.
in 1/6 scale, and it takes up so much damn room. I'm like, I can't do this. Jesus.
I got sucked in with Action Force because great storyline,
Well, yeah,
cool
that too, right?
figure. Yeah, so I've got quite a big Action Force collection, a little bit of classified, but I wasn't really in love with some of the designs, and they're so all over the board. They're yes, they're all GI Joe, but they're from different eras, and they don't all kind of fit cohesively. And it's just like they're just kind of randomly picking fish here and there. It's like,
Yeah.
not,
I'm a
not
little, my discouragement with the classifieds was their quality control issues. It's like when I know I
there's
get a
that too.
Valaverse figure, I know it's going to be solid. And if it's an issue, I'm going to tell Bobby, hey, I got an issue. And he's going to be like, send it to me. I'll replace it. Right.
Well, and the customizability,
Oh, yeah.
here's, Kit Bash guy. I've got a head, a body from one, legs from another, head from a Marvel Legends, because it works. It's easy to just hobble something together. You get an idea in your head for a character or something. It's really easy to play around.
I don't think I have.
Classified, not so much.
I have two out of all my Action Force guys. I think I have two that are still in original condition. Right, the rest of them have all been popped and swapped and changed up. And
Yeah,
I did that with Joe though too. I mean, I was never like, I want this how it looks out of the box. I was always like, this is going to be this guy, and I just change him up and go for it.
Yeah, I went through a phase there for a while. I'm looking at anything, in the 1/12 scale. It's like that figure sucks, but that head I could use. So I might buy him when he goes on clearance, and I'll pop the head and put him on an Action Force body or something. Yep. It's like when I watched, the Terminal List. They did the, I read the books, really loved what was going on there with Jack Carr. Then they did the Amazon series, and they got, I can't remember the actor's name, but they got this guy to play, James Reese. I'm like, yeah, I got to make a James Reese.
Yeah.
So that was an easy one. Just took a Jurassic Park Amber Collection head, put it on there, and it's like, Bob's your uncle. I got my Navy SEAL guy. So they're fun. I like the customizability. I like the affordability. They don't cost an arm and a leg, and you get good quality, tons of accessories.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, like, I've had a couple of my classifieds that are basically, I mean, they're at that time they were probably $10 cheaper than Valaverse, right? But two of them, I got Spirit because I really liked Spirit when I was a kid, right? I loved the whole
cool
thing.
Character.
Yeah. And I had him out in the CRICK with me the one day, and I was trying to pose him just sitting down on a rock and shifted his drop down hip, popped, it didn't pop off the joint. The whole joint actually just broke. So I was pissed, right? And then I got Recondo because I liked Recondo being the jungle warfare guy. And I had him on a Valaverse stand, pegged feet in there, right? Make sure he stood up on my shelf. His ankles were so weak that he actually ended up falling over, slid off the shelf, landed on my carpeted floor, and his shoulder peg broke. I was like, I picked up a couple since then. I picked up Shipwreck because I'm planning on making him. I got to find a character to make for the other Duke boys, but Shipwreck is perfect because he's got the blue jeans and a blue shirt. So he's going to be my Luke Duke once I find the right head. And then I just got to find a different dude for the Bo Duke because I got the orange ramen racer.
I was going to say, you got the ramen orange racer. Yeah. That'll be sweet.
Because I got the orange ramen racer because when I get the Bandito, I'm going to have that in the black or whatever. I'll probably end up having a couple of those ones.
I am really tempted to pick up the Bandito I saw the one kit that they were talking about, like the post-apocalyptic with the weapons and the metal
Yeah,
screen on the
the
windshield.
Gaslands version.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm gonna get.
dude, that would
That's
be
what I'm
so
saying.
cool.
I'm gonna get one Bandito because I want it for the muscle car, but I'm gonna have to get another one because that's gonna go great with Monster Force to have the Gaslands
Exactly,
post-apocalyptic thing, and then
and the van. I got to
oh
have
yeah,
that
the
van.
Gaslands van is amazing too. I probably have to get two of those. Gonna need one for post-apocalyptic and the one for the A team, which I'm gonna have to do because it's
But yeah, I don't. I'm going to have to build a 1/12 scale garage, pun intended. I'm going to need
yeah.
a garage for all these vehicles because I've got the big Batmobile, I've got the Mystery Machine, I've got the '66 Batmobile. It's like I don't have any more shelf space, guys. We gotta work something out.
Yeah, right now for vehicles, I have a WWE Slambulance that I turn into a police truck, and of course I
Cool.
have like 4 Fisher Price Adventure People vehicles, which those aren't too big, but like the Alpha Probe, it's probably 18
Yeah.
inches long, something like that. Then I have Mattel's '66 Batmobile, the McFarlane Bat Cycle. Then I have another Batmobile somewhere, and then I have my model, my Revell 1/14th scale or whatever the hell scale it is. No, it's 1/12 scale. 57 Chevy Bel Air. So I got that too that I
Ooh.
use. It's all beat up. I found the kit all disassembled. I couldn't find all the parts, so I turned it into a beater, and now it's just kind of like either a junker for the action force to shoot around or beat up or
Right.
whatever.
I've got a Bratz car. I'd picked up to do some 1/12 photography,
Light up the
but
boulevard.
exactly. No, I don't have the same one that Laser Pants does. I have an older version that I picked up, but I've got my freaking Boglin in it. It became the Boglin
Oh
mobile.
yeah, that's right.
You
You got
know,
the Boglin mobile. That's right.
yeah, he won't leave it. He's taken it over. It's that's his. So I'm not arguing with him.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's all have fun, figure out what works. I've got
Yeah.
too many projects sitting here of this will be cool as soon as I get around to breaking my airbrush out and start customizing. It's like I don't make the time to do it.
That's what it comes down to, right? It's making time. I have that struggle sometimes, and that's why I end up building everything like in one day. If I start a dial, I usually start it and then finish that. I mean, like my big dial, my 6 foot by 3 foot one. Of course, that was just kind of one. Took some time, but like the pieces that I build, the modular pieces to go with it. If I'm building like a ruin or something, I build that whole thing in a day, right? Because it's like otherwise, I got the paintbrushes out, I got the glue out, I got the foam cutter out. It's all staying out
Yeah.
until it's done because I'm not going to take it and put it away. Now, luckily, I live alone, so I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But it still gets. I have that problem where like if everything's kind of messy and chaotic, then I get all overwhelmed and I don't do anything, right? So I'm really
Yeah.
structured as far as like everything's got a place and it's where it goes, right? It's like my
I'm the
kids
same
hate it
way.
because it's like dishes get done before I go to bed every night. Everything gets put away. It's like, why do you got to do that, Dad? I'm like, it's just got to be done. Because when I wake up in the morning and have my coffee, I don't want to have to fight for a cup. I don't have to fight to get in the sink. I just want to get in the sink.
Exactly. No, I've got 3 very needy dogs that want attention. The wife, the stepson. So time is limited. There's a lot of adulting that has to be done, and then turning around and the Bogomobile. I mean, I can't take it away from him. He loves it.
Nah.
He likes terrorizing the
Well,
dogs.
he'd probably eat you if he did try taking it away from him, right? Bite your finger
Probably
off something.
if he didn't try to eat me, he'd probably eat some of the other guys in my collection.
Yeah.
They're already afraid to be in here with him at night. So, but I wasn't doing a YouTube channel. Had no idea how much of a time suck that was going to be.
Yeah, well, you got a busy YouTube channel too, right? Because you're doing several shows and lining up guests and everything else. So
I like doing it, but yeah, it's a lot of time for putting a script together, getting it from my gray matter onto making the video, figuring out how to make the video, then hoping my internet doesn't crash, getting it out. I'm like,
maybe you need to find a different tribe of Guatemalan elves that have a little more intelligence or something that could work all the tech for you too.
I would love to have some tech support, but it ain't happening. It's just me. I got to learn it or it ain't happening.
Oh yeah.
So
my tech support is Luke, man. It's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. All the time. He's like, yeah, why don't you? I mean, I'm pretty good with tech, but like some of the new stuff, like the AI and some of the streaming stuff and all that. Like he's been doing YouTube since he was, old enough to know better. I mean, he's got a YouTube channel when I think we started his YouTube channel when he was 8, and he's got some stop motions and things like that on there. It's like, he's 18 now. He's been doing it for 10 years. I'm like, yeah, I started watching YouTubes maybe 4 years ago, but doing anything on there? No.
Yeah, and I didn't have any plans for doing any kind of a channel. It just kind of happened, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I don't really do toy photography unless it's related to a video I want to work on.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten out to the workshop and done any kit bashing projects in a while because time, So I'm like, I gotta make a better schedule. So
yeah, the thing is, you really got to force yourself to do it, right? And that's one of the things like I struggle with. Like today, I finished work at like 2:00, and I was like, I should really go out to the woods, get out to the nature for a couple hours since it's been raining here for like the last 3 or 4 days on and off. And I was like, it's a nice afternoon. I should get out to the woods. I'll take a figure with me, snap some pictures. Even if I don't post them, just snap some pics just for the sake of doing it and being out in the woods, right?
I know.
So
it's
I
like
forced myself to do
awesome, Yeah, I've got all these awesome Guatemalan ruins that are just like driving distance. And it's like, how cool would it be to have, a Tikal, one of these giant stone, monoliths with Joe or some Action Force guys hanging out in the picture. It's like, I'll just be there tomorrow. To go do it. I got a guest room, man. You're welcome. But I just got to make more time for doing the stuff that makes it fun. If it's not fun, why?
Like if you don't do that kind of stuff and make time for it, it just becomes another thing in your life and not actually like what it's there for, right? And that's the problem. A lot of people run into that, right? That's kind of how I got out of the 1/6 scale. Is it became so overwhelming and such like I was doing flocking and restoring more than anything, right? And it became more of a job, and I was doing all these orders for everybody else that I didn't have time to do my own, photography and stuff, and I just got sick of it, right? And I just kind of quit it all.
So I shouldn't send you my my covert condor to turn him into Tom Selleck. You don't.
Oh, you could do that. I do one-offs and stuff now. That's fine. I mean, back then I was doing. I tell you, Jim, I was advertising on eBay for reflocking services and on Facebook, and I was probably doing anywhere from 50 to 100 heads every week.
Oof, I mean, if you love doing it, that's great. But yeah,
and I don't do it with a flocking machine. I just do it with the old flock bottle technique. So, I mean, and I didn't take like, just do like everybody wants an air adventurer or a sea adventurer, right? I was doing custom fades and, all sorts of, mix and match. This guy wanted like short flock on the sides and long flock on the top. And I was doing all that crazy stuff, right? So it takes time.
You become a G.I. Joe barber. It's like, how you want it today, kid?
Yep,
tell me what you need. Little off the top, fade.
Yep.
Yeah, we could do that. Put a lightning bolt on the side. Yeah, we can carve that.
Had that too. Lightning bolts for did a couple of Mike Powers, they all wanted beers, but they wanted lightning bolts, or like they wanted the hole on top left open so they could still see the eye, so you got to make sure you don't get the glue all over that. And I was doing all sorts of crazy custom stuff. I bit off more than I could chew, and I basically, like I said, ran out of time for my own enjoyment because I was just trying to get everybody's orders done, right? Because I didn't want people waiting around. So
the frustration for me is, like I said, I have a lot of problems with electrical here recently, more than usual. And it's so frustrating because you'll be right in the middle of something. And then I do have a battery backup, but it's only good for about half an hour. All right. Somebody's at the door. I'm going to mute.
All right.
At least they let me know when somebody's coming.
Yeah. We got 8 people still watching. That's nice.
Yeah, we've been here for a while. I'm going to go check on them. I'll be
okay. Go ahead. What's Thanos saying? I want to start taking more outdoor shots just to force my ass outdoors more. Yeah, you got to wait for it to cool down some. I mean, it's been cool here for pretty much the whole summer this year, but I going out, unless you're going in the woods. I go in the woods all the time because it's usually 5 to 10 degrees cooler in the woods and not quite so humid. So I appreciate everybody stopping by and joining on the show, even though my normal partner wasn't here today, and we didn't do what we planned, but still turned into a pretty good show. I could go another 3 hours if I really wanted to, Punk. But, I still have half a thermos of coffee left. I'm only on cup number 2. So, Fat Red Foo, you are a big 1/18th guy. Are you planning on building some 1/18th diodes? Is that what your plan is?
Sorry about that. Yeah, somebody at the door.
Let's see. Fat Red Foo. I live about half an hour, 35 minutes south of Buffalo in New York. So Western New York area. That is a sweet ass mug, isn't it?
It is.
I don't want to rub it in, but I mean it is a sweet ass mug. And it says Action Figs right there on the handle.
If you got it,
it's got a little heart on the bottom with CY for Ted's daughter's initials.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, Travis is in the club now. Congrats for getting his mighty mug. And the mug version 2 will eventually be available for the rest of us poor schlubs.
I still laugh because I mean, everybody knows I love Travis, and Travis is a great guy. He's a really good guy. Him and I have talked. I think he hit me up when I was making my AWOC thrones, and we started talking then because he wanted to make a throne for his AWOCs out of the foam. So we started talking then, and then we were close on 3POA and on Hella Dope chats and all that stuff together, right? And then so now we talk at least several times a day. But he was always on Ted and Aaron about the mug, especially Ted, because Ted's in a lot more chats than Aaron is just because of his work schedule, And he was always on Ted about the mug. I need a mug. Where's my mug? And then on the one stream, he made, I think it was the one that I did on the Hella Dope the first Sunday. And then Travis was on and he made an actual
I saw
knockoff Hella Dope
his
mug,
knockoff, yeah, with the Sharpie and yeah.
When I saw the video of Ted and Aaron giving Travis the mug at PowerCon, that kid, I mean, it was like watching a 5-year-old get the best Christmas present ever. It's like,
eyes lit
there you
up,
go. That is awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome.
It's always good when people appreciate the little things, and that's very cool.
I think it's funny because like the whole mug thing, they got them for themselves, or it was gifted to them, right? And then they gave one to, I can't remember who got the first one. Oh, Frank got the giveaway. And I know
Ted, you created your own monster. I was going to say, give you sympathy.
It was them guys. It was their own fault. And I don't know if they realized how bad it was going to blow up. But
yeah.
The one stream I had to laugh. Ted's like, I opened up a toy store and everybody wants coffee mugs.
I know. Yeah, it's like t-shirts, hats, and mugs are a good secondary source, because people like the Hella Dope brand. They want to be a part of it. So get that merch.
Yeah, I got a Hella Dope mug and a Hella Dope t-shirt. So I'm part of the sexy trio.
That's it. You're living large, man.
Today I'm wearing the foosh.
I like, he's probably the only good thing that came out of Arkansas. I like those guys. Robo's got some funny takes on stuff, but they're not really my big source of news anymore. I used to watch them a lot, but I watch
Robo's show every Saturday, but only because of his quirkiness. It's just the enjoyment of the show. I don't watch it for the news, really. It's more watching for him. But I met him at PowerCon. He's a really good guy too. So he's another one.
I was going to say, most days now, if I take the time to watch something, it's because I like the personality. I like the person doing it more than what they're talking about. It's exactly. Like, so I watch a lot of, 3POA, Articulated Ninja. I love those guys' takes on things. Chad, Chad's awesome. So
Chad makes me laugh.
Oh yeah,
he's got a rant going. I think he said tomorrow's a rant, and then
there's Thursday's one today.
Was it today that he put that out? That's right. I got to watch that still.
And he's totally right. Distribution sucks.
Yeah, Radnom, I gave you a shout out earlier, brother. Told everybody to watch your show on Friday night.
Oh yeah.
Your late night chilling build. But yeah, I most of the shows I watch now, like yours and HTT, of course, 3POA. I don't even watch 3POA that much now, just because there's so many people in the chat. It's like I can't even, like for me, part of the enjoyment of the show was interacting with everybody in the chat. So it's like I put a chat in there, it's just gone. It's like by the time I hit enter, it's like up at the top of the page. I don't even see it anymore. But I usually watch the replays of those, and then I do watch Loose But Complete on Wednesdays because I like the chemistry that Jeremy and Ryan have together. Those guys, you could tell that they're friends in real life, and they bounce off each other. Not that Tony and Bobby and Ryan don't have good chemistry, but the chemistry between Ryan and Jeremy is different. So
just like with Jeremy and Chad, they have a different chemistry, and it totally works for what they're doing. So it just works in different venues. That's why Will and I work. We just even though we don't collect the same kind of stuff, we just vibe when we get together and start hanging out. So we have a good time. So I'm his sidekick on his show. He's my sidekick on my show.
Yeah, your guys' shows are good, really entertaining, and of course,
thanks.
You guys do really good production value stuff. So I mean, that's nice too.
We try. Sometimes it's put together with baling wire and bubble gum, but we try to make it work.
Well, sometimes the Guatemalan elves have to, do what they can do, right? I mean,
that's it. You make do with what you got.
That's right. Hey, no problem, Ratnam. All right. Well, it's been. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to comment on Random Diorama. It's like you should go just for the beard alone. That is a majestic beard.
Yes. How close are you to 500, Jim?
Ways. I've plateaued right around 300. I just need to get more content out there. Like I said, I've got a bunch of scripts. I got stuff in the pipe. I just got to get it out there. And then the
problem is, it's like we've talked about with Hella Dope Toys going to 500, right? It's like you can get a whole bunch of subscribers by doing shorts. You can get a whole bunch of subscribers by doing different things, right? But how many of those people are actually watching, right? And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Or consistently watching.
After I watched Michael from Retro Blastings talk about, what's going on with the short stuff, I dumped all the shorts off my channel. I'm not even bothering with it anymore. It's just, it takes too much time to make that short content. I'd rather put it into long form because that's what I do. So it makes more sense.
The only, I do shorts only because the shorts that I have are same ones I put up on Instagram. They're just quick reels, right? I mean, I'm not going to go out there and make a short for short's sake. It's just a video.
Exactly.
Like when I put the 60-second video of the Babbling Brook, it's like I recorded it, dump it, right? It doesn't matter to me. So
when I start doing more toy photography again, that usually goes on Instagram, and sometimes it'll go up as a reel or it'll go up as just photos, but that's where I put that vertical form stuff. So the shorts, I tried it. It just doesn't work for what I do.
Well, like I did that video of my spaceship, with the Starfield in front of it with the Cosmic Legions. And I posted it as a reel to Instagram. And I think it got like, I don't know, a couple thousand views. I can't remember what it got. And I posted it the same day or the next day on YouTube as a short. And I think on YouTube, it only has like 200 views. So it's like, it all depends on your audience and what you're going for. The toy YouTube is a tough thing, right? Even the Axis of Awesome struggle with it, right? I mean, it's like, Jeff's been growing his channel for a long time and he puts out great content, Same with Adam. They do great photo stories, but it's like, there's only that certain, viewership.
Yeah, it's a niche. So that's one of the reasons I've kind of taken a step back. I'm looking at some other, pop culture and Gen X kind of stuff other than toy that fits with the vibe. So, I'm looking whatever interests me and interests the circle of friends that we've created here. That's what I want to do. And I don't want to just throw out something just to make the algorithm happy. It's like, if I'm not doing something quality, then I'm wasting my time.
That's what Luke and I are doing here, right? I mean, we're just, if it gets, I mean, I only have like 82 subscribers. So, it's like, I don't care. It's just like on Instagram, it's like, I think I'm up to like 1,600 now or something like that. But followers. But I'm like, I
Some
don't
people get obsessed with the numbers. I'm
yeah.
just like, dude, I just want to do the best content I
Yep.
can. It's a challenge to me. It's like, okay, I did that. How do I top that? How do I figure out how to put
Yep.
in something else? So I tinker, and sometimes it totally crashes and burns, and sometimes it's cool. So
Yeah. Well, it's like
hopefully,
I've been playing with Canva a lot more and just doing some of the tricks and stuff that you showed me, and like I said, I appreciate that. And it's like
yeah,
Canva's great, and it's like the more I play with it, every time I do another presentation, I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. Now if I did presentations like you where there are videos, you could even do even more, right? I mean, but like I just do
yeah.
slideshows. So
I've definitely pushed the limits of what the platform can do, because it was really meant for business advertising and
yeah,
marketing. It's not really meant for creative. I mean,
no,
so I'm taking those tools and doing what I can with them, but true video editing, I'm still learning, and
yep.
it's a challenge. But yeah, we've about almost 2 hours here. If you gotta go get a tasty
No,
beverage, or
I'm good. If you want to stay for a couple more minutes, we can give it 12 minutes, maybe to go to 10:30.
yeah, I'm good. What what's going on in the chat there? We got anything
Let's
groovy?
see. Lawrence making smart ass comments. Oh no, it's actually something good.
That's
Shorts
something
aren't
good. Yeah,
bad for a channel as long as it's relative to your channel. Yeah.
they
I'll see, like
have
that's
changed shorts to where now you can actually put a link to your long form comment. So that's something new. I that might work too. But
yeah, the that's one of the struggles that I have is that my
Jeremy just threw the gauntlet down.
do another hour, cowards. Shit.
I could do this all day.
That's right. Yeah. Says the guy who's gets done with Ryan in an hour. They're like, "Oh, we've been going for so long, and we still got to do our after show with all of our secret buddies." Yeah,
Jeremy
I
does
know.
get a pass because he has a youngun, a real youngun that takes a
Oh,
lot of
I don't want
time
to
and
hear it. I
effort.
had three
So
youngins all at the same time, and a dog,
yeah,
and
but
a wife.
you weren't doing a YouTube channel on top of that at the
No, I
time.
wasn't. I was working two jobs. I don't want to hear about that.
I got 5
Crybaby
jobs,
shit.
man. I have to walk uphill in the
I'm
snow.
just busting your balls, Jeremy. I'm just busting your balls, man. No, I the problem you have, right, is not the youngin. It's the
Right.
wife who wants you to share in the youngin's responsibility, right? Back when my kids were little, it was still mostly the woman's job to take care of the youngins, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of until Luke was born, really. It wasn't really a shared thing. Like my wife took care of my kids and I worked, right? That's what I did, right? I come home, play
Yeah.
dad, do the, throw them around, swing them up and down and stuff like that. Maybe change a diaper once in a while, throw up some dinner, but child care was my wife's job, right? She stayed home and that's what she did. I mean, that was her job.
Yeah. For me at this point, it's the honeydew list that's, a time
Never
suck.
ending.
And then there's never ending. There's always, man.
I'm in there under my other account. I know I talk trash about myself all the time too.
There you go. But my wife, God bless her, I've tried explaining to her. It's like when I'm writing a script or when I'm working on something, I'm focused, and it's usually about the time I really get in the zone. She wants to chat.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I want to talk about this thing that's totally random.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, because the thought hit her, right? It's like
yeah,
when my ex-wife and I first got together, right? Now I'm the type of guy, I sleep like 4 to 5 hours every night, but I am like C3PO. When it's time to shut down, I shut down. And I told her this. When I hit the pillow and I say goodnight, I'm out, right? And she didn't believe me. So when we first moved in together, the first couple of weeks we're together, like in the morning, she's all mad. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, oh, I was talking to you last night and you just fell asleep. I'm like, I told you. I
yeah,
told you. When I hit the pillow, I turn off. There's no control in this. It's not if you don't want me to go to sleep and you have something you need to say, then you need to make sure the light's on and I'm sitting up, and probably best to do it out in the living room, not in the bed, because I'll fall asleep sitting up. I'm that good, right? I mean, I used to sleep in the
yeah.
back of Deuce and a Halves. I slept in the back of
Oh
tanks,
yeah. When you're in
driving
the
down the
military,
road. It didn't matter, right?
you get a nap when you
And
can
I got
because
out
you
of the
never
service
know.
in 96 and we moved in together in 96. So I wasn't that far removed from my military life at that point in time.
Right. Still
But
got
it
that
took her
routine. It's like,
forever to figure that out, right? And then I'd
yeah,
be like,
I've tried explaining to my wife. It's like, I am a creature of habit. If you want my attention, then in the morning I have a ritual. I go on the back porch. I make a cup of coffee because I got a little kitchenette up there. I sit down with my cup of Joe and I plan my day. That is the time. If you want my undivided attention, we'll come just hang out on the back porch with me and we'll chat about whatever. But when I'm working on something and typing and I'm trying to write, it's like, that's not the
yep.
time.
Yeah, like my best time, like on Saturday and Sunday when, like during the week, she was always working. She started work at like 5:30 and I didn't go to work until like 8. So she'd go to work, I'd say goodbye to her. I'd drink my coffee, get the kids on the bus, come back and drink some more coffee, and then, go on the day. But like Saturday and Sunday, when she wanted to plan whatever we were doing or whatever honey-do list I had, going on, that was the time, right? Talk to me when I'm
Oh
having a
yeah,
cup of coffee, sitting on the back porch, or if it's cold out, we're sitting in the living room, whatever.
exactly.
Undivided attention. The only thing going to
Yeah.
break up the conversation is the fact I got to refill my cup.
And she wants to try to
Hey, welcome,
do
Pat.
stuff. Howdy, howdy. Yeah, she'll get into these,
Hey,
ideas
look
of
at
like,
this. Go ahead.
oh hey,
All right.
You finally made it.
I got kind of sucked into playing Starfield and forgot what time it was or where I
So
was.
that was the emergency.
What day
hey,
it was.
I've heard that is the new hotness. I haven't played
Yeah.
it, but I've heard it. Everybody's really raving about it.
It's great. I love it.
Cool. Yeah. Oh man, that's good for your back. That's a nice platform to take a rest if you can.
I slept on the back of Hummers and I was on the retrans team, which retrans is basically just retransmitting the FM secured signal from top of a mountain from one side down to the other. But I slept in so many places on a Humvee and couldn't even tell you.
That was one nice thing about being a multi-channel communication systems operator. We had a van on the back of our deuce and half, a big communications thing that was up.
Love those.
So, rain, sleet, hail, whatever, lightning storm. We had a place to hunker down because we had to be, got to keep the equipment dry, and the operator kind of has to stay dry with it. So that was a nice perk.
Yeah, they had the Deuce and Halves with the big communication thing, and then they had the Hummers that had the smaller version. And I was never lucky enough to get in. I mean, I was in some of those, but they were never. I was in a headquarters company, so we didn't have those. They were in the actual battalion. So, but in getting them help with their program and the radios and stuff, I got to do that. But the benefit of being retrans is that like when we were on Fort Hood, we'd get sent out far away from everybody else, and it was me and one other guy, and we had all the frequencies, so we could plug in the frequency on our radio in our Humvee because we heard all the communication coming in from the two radios.
Right, so where the chatter's coming from. Yeah,
right. The Humvee, we could actually listen to like Friends, and because we could get the FM radio stations and the TV station FM frequencies. We'd sit there, and the one spot we used to go to in Fort Hood to train, it was closer to the I can't remember the name of the other town that was on the other side of Fort Hood. There was Killeen, and then whatever town was on the other side of Fort Hood. I can't remember.
But you're picking up their broadcast signals.
Oh, yeah. But my buddies, that's where him and his wife lived. So we'd be up there, and he would tell her where we were going to be, and he'd walk down to the bottom of the hill and meet her there. And she'd bring us like pizzas and McDonald's. And, the guys are all eating MREs, and we're like, chill it out. Of course, we were far away from anybody, right? I mean, we were gone.
Oh, yeah.
We were out there for 2 days by ourselves.
Yeah, you're not under the brass. You don't have to worry about doing all the grunt jobs that get, busy work.
Yep.
That's definitely a nice thing.
Yeah.
Good work.
When you're out in the real field, it sucked because like you get out there and you take like 4 cases of MREs with you, because that's what you got, right? And the MREs were famous, right? You're either constipated or you had the shits. I mean, there was no in between.
Yeah. Yeah, and the paper that you had available was not up to the task. Let's just say.
And if you're lucky enough to find a rock to go between, so you didn't have to, squat down.
Yeah, it's like one thing I learned early: bring your own toilet paper when you're going to the field. Don't rely on that government issue stuff. And no,
I remember my friend. He was on the retrans team with me. His name was Doug, probably my best friend back then, and he'd actually take and crinkle up all of his magazines, right? Because he'd take, we take Rolling Stones. Back then, everybody had magazine subscriptions. I mean, besides
Oh, yeah.
the Playboy, you always had like Rolling Stone, and you had,
Or
science
Easy
fiction
Rider.
log, and motorcycle tattoo magazines, and the magazine paper. Other than the ink, if you crinkled it up enough, it got really soft, and I didn't understand what he was doing all the time. And he's like, I'm like, why are you crinkling up all that paper? And he'd stuff it in his rucksack, I'm like, he's like, well, when it gets all mashed down, it's perfect for toilet paper. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, and then he goes, other than leaving, some red streaks and black streaks on your ass from the ink. I was like, okay, fun fact. It worked.
Too much
I had to use it
information,
a couple
but hey.
times in a pinch. It was better than the sandpaper you were issued, though.
Oh, man. Yeah. That is true.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. So how you
Domino's
doing, Luke?
serving the service.
That's right.
Me? I'm doing
Yeah,
great.
you-
How are you?
Good. We just been hanging out. We decided to hold off on your wizard speak until you were available. So that'll be for another day.
Yeah, we'll save that for next time.
So how
Did my
is the
dad
game?
Die? Is he gone? Did he die? I think he died. It's great. I built like this giant spaceship. Really big spaceship. Huge.
Now,
And it's pretty fun.
Now, for those of us who are total noobs to this, you start out as just a explorer. You don't have a ship. You have to commandeer one. You have to buy modules. How does it work?
When you start out, you're like a miner that
Mhm.
you're in its cave and you're trying to find this artifact for a company. And then you find it, and then the company's like, hey, we're gonna give you a spaceship. And then they give you this really like low tier spaceship that you get to use for a little while. But then once you get money, you can build the spaceship, get better parts, blah, 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 blah. But it costs a lot of money to have for a good ship. But
Yeah,
I cheat.
I've
so I
seen
just
some
steal
people
the
are
money.
already learning how to like commandeer or pirate a ship of better tech
Yeah.
from somebody else in the game. That's kind of a tactic.
You can be a pirate, which is pretty sick. You just go around stealing stuff from other people's spaceships, which is fun.
Grand Theft Auto in space. I love it.
Yeah.
How
We
is
lost
the
service.
the graphics and stuff? Because I saw some of the promotional video stuff they were showing. It looks beautiful, but what's the real gameplay like?
I have a bad computer, I'd say, for like as far as modern computers go, but mine looks great anyway. I mean, it's way better than normal than a lot of games. I mean, Skyrim, it probably looks better than Skyrim a lot on like a really good computer, but it looks fine for me.
How buggy is it? I mean, most new games they go through at least 6 months to a year of working out the kinks. Is this one pretty smooth out of the box, or?
Yeah, I haven't had any bugs really that I really noticed. I mean, one time I was in space and the spaceship like was spinning all over the place, but that was about it. Other than that, I mean, everything works fine.
That happens.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how this thing takes off because it's got a great concept. It seems to be a pretty well done open world, open universe idea where you can kind of explore and do things. So it could definitely replace some other games that are a little long in the tooth now.
Yeah.
So.
There's a lot of people that don't like it. I don't know why. I mean, it's just probably just not for them, but I love the game. I've been probably played like 20 hours already.
Wow.
I mean, that was just on one planet that I was doing.
Attacked my system.
That's those gremlins, man. They're thick here in Guatemala. So some of their cousins might be there in the cables and lines and stuff. I don't know. It's all technical.
You see that?
Techno Gremlins. That's my EDM band.
There you go. So Jeremy's into the videos too. Cool video games. Nice. Oz is hanging out. Hey Oz.
I like video games, but I can't play.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't really gotten into it. I used to enjoy them, but again, it's a time suck. It's like I already got plenty of those. I don't need to add another one. I would be like
right?
Luke. I'd be totally into it for 20 hours. It's like, are you going to come up to breathe or eat? It's like, nope. I'm in the zone.
When I was younger, and when Halo was first out, I would sit down after put the kids
Yeah.
to bed, wife went to bed, I'd sit down and play Halo for hours and just, beat as many levels as I could.
It's fun, but yeah, it can totally get away from you if you're not watching your time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some people, that is like the, get off work, turn on the game system, and they're into it for the rest of the day, evening.
Yeah, I remember when I was stationed at Fort Hood. It was this is a long time ago. Remember, so that was when Super NES first came out, right? And Super Mario, I think it was Mario 3 was out, and we get off duty for the night and go to the shop out of the PX and grab a couple 12 packs, make sure we're stocked up on smokes and snacks, and we'd sit there and play Super Mario probably till 3-4 in the morning, catch an hour of shut eye, get up and go, do PT, do work for the day, go right back at it next day when we got home. It was like, man.
Yeah, when those game consoles started popping up, it's like everybody in the barracks that was the thing. You'd get just parties together, and somebody would, because you got guys who have discretionary income because they got no responsibilities. They're just knuckleheads getting a check from Uncle Sam, so they're buying the top of the line gaming rig and a nice monitor, and it's just like, okay. So disc golf, I haven't tried that. It's like frisbee, but with golf.
Yep,
I've heard of it. Huh.
Yeah, disc golf is pretty fun. It's hard. I can't. I mean, I'm pretty good with.
I can't. Yeah, I was gonna say I suck at regular golf. I can't imagine trying to do it with a frisbee.
Right down the road from us, we have like a practice hole at one of the parks where you can they have the little screen thing that you throw them into. But
yeah, my folks, the Super NES, the NES, the Atari, all those were like, that was the big Christmas get, and then a couple of games, and then that was, don't bug me, kid, go play the thing.
I was just telling Luke last week, I think it was, that the Atari 2600 was the first video game system that we had as kids.
Yeah,
and it was so expensive back then with a couple of games, for that time, that my parents got it for me and my brother for Christmas. But I was born in January, my brother was a March, and it was like our Christmas / birthday together present, right?
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
And
then my dad bought Miss
to be said that,
and he'd play Miss Pac-Man until 4:00 in the morning every night.
My mom was like that with what was the game she was really into? She really got into the Pac-Man, but also I think it was called Berserk. It was like a little guy shooting lasers and you couldn't touch. She that one and Pitfall. Those were crazy at the house.
I love
for some
Pitfall.
reason.
Yeah, Pitfall was fun.
But yeah, there's an argument to be made that a lot of the toy lines that we really enjoyed took a major hit when video game consoles took over, because kids started playing video games. They're not playing with their G.I. Joes and their Turtles or whatever. So
yeah, you could definitely start seeing a shift, especially when the more advanced systems came out, like, the first PlayStation and the first Xbox and stuff. You can really see a shift in the collecting going more towards adult and little kids, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
there was a strict line drawn. Like before that, it was kind of like, you go into a toy store or a department store or toy section, it was kind of like a flow. Now it's kind of, segregated, right? It's all little kids, girls, boys, and, it's not like a flow anymore, right?
Yeah, everything changed. The market changed. And it was like, I remember when video games were kind of in the toy aisle, but then they kind of were in the electronics aisle. They didn't know where to put them.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like a thing that took over a big chunk of, the toy store areas for a while.
I was never really into games anyway. I mean, I played them, and, we had the Atari 2600, but after that, I never had another gaming system until I was, an adult myself and bought my own Xbox. And it was just, I was still never really into the electronics part of it. Like even now, like I have, everybody plays apps on their phone and stuff. I have one game that I played for like the last 5 years, and that's it, right? I play one game, that's it.
When the N64 came out, we got it, kind of got heavy into that. My wife totally got into Zelda and was playing that, the Orinoco time, whatever the little flute thing.
Ocarina.
Thank you. That was her jam. I liked Donkey Kong Country. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Like I play
But
games, like, most of the time when I was playing games, it was either with a friend or like when I was in the service, because everybody, we had 4-room barracks and we'd have, or 4-man barrack rooms. And then we'd have, 20 people all sitting up on
Like all
beds and
crammed
everything else,
in.
all
Yeah.
watching it, little tiny little 20-inch television if we were lucky,
Good times, man.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it's the simple
Excellent
things you have
times.
fun with.
Yep. And of course, we played our first Atari 2600 on my parents. They had one of the big console TVs with the stereo and record
Oh,
player
yeah.
and everything built right in. Couldn't
Yep.
move that damn thing unless you had 18 people.
Yeah, they were huge, but that was cool. Yeah, my dad had one of those that had the record player and then the television and then a radio, I think. And yeah, it was a huge 6,000-pound
Yep.
walnut wood cabinet thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They were made out of real wood back then too, right? I mean, it's like
that was back when you turn the TV on and it would kind of like, and it would kind of
Yeah.
warm up for a minute
Yeah.
before you actually got a picture.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah,
you'd have that little red dot in the middle and it started growing. You're like, oh, it's coming. Yeah.
it's like, hurry
I was
up! I want
thinking
to
that
watch
the
my
other day
Saturday
when
morning
I was-
cartoons.
When you were mentioning that on the Infinite playlist, I think last week with Robert.
With Robert, yeah, Infinite
about
Realms.
the console, and I think Will said something, or maybe it was you that said something about getting a record and just playing the hell out of it. And I remember
CCR. I
Yeah.
loved Creedence Clearwater Revival.
I remember when the Flash Gordon movie came out in like 1980 or whatever that was, and they had the soundtrack from Queen, for that album. And of course, I had a younger cousin who was like 3 years younger than me, and him and I were both huge Flash Gordon fans, right? And my uncle and my aunt had one of those big console record players, and we played that friggin' Flash record until it was so beat up and scratched, because like we're running around, and you're not supposed to run around and jump around when you got a a bouncy floor
Record
with a
playing.
record player,
Yeah.
right? Man, that was so. I mean, that thing was just beat to shit. So
That was a great soundtrack because you
Oh,
had
yeah.
Queen. Queen was
Yep.
awesome. Plus, they had interjected, little audio bits from the movie, little sound
Yeah.
clips and stuff. It's like, man, you could play that thing all day. It was awesome.
yeah, that Flash Gordon theme song at the end, it had like when Flash is flying into the into Ming's
The
spaceship,
Palace. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I
What a
love
good
that
movie
movie.
that was.
So
I can't wait.
cheesy.
Nako's got some really nice looking figures coming out for that right now.
Yeah, my wallet's not loving that. I got their the pulp heroes of the Phantom and
Oh, yeah,
Ming and Flash. I had to try them because I'd had some of the earlier NECA stuff. They're just brittle like peanut
yeah,
brittle. They
yep.
just broke easy. These have been better. The quality seems to be improving. So
Everybody says the NECA stuff is good now, so I'm probably going to get. They got Flash Gordon, Ming, and Voltan or Voltar, whatever,
Nice.
coming
Yeah.
out, and he's got a really nice set of wings. And I mean, as a kid growing up, Hawk people were like always my thing, and it came from the one bad guy on maybe the Herculoids or Space Ghost, but he had like the wings, Always liked that concept. And then, of course, Hawkman was one of my favorite comic book characters. Then Flash
yeah.
Gordon came out with the whole herd of, a whole army of Hawkmen. I was like, whoa. So when I saw they were doing Voltar, I was like, oh, man, I got to get in our Voltan. Rather.
Yep. He's a cool character. That'll be fun. Of course, I like the old, the black and white cliffhanger stuff with the really cheesy, sparks coming out of the back of a,
Yep.
metal tube spaceship. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I watch a lot of those movies on Tubi all the time. They got the old sci-fi
Crab.
movies out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the old Twilight Zones and all that fun stuff, black and white stuff. So those are always fun to watch.
there's something about watching sci-fi in black and white that opens things up for your imagination because the special effects, they couldn't do it. They didn't have the budget. They didn't have the tech. So a lot of it, they would, would be off screen or you had to kind of,
yeah, you see like the explosion and just see the lights flash over here. You didn't know really, you had to fill in the blank. It definitely left more to the imagination. I mean, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's like with everything nowadays, even the toys, right? That's why kids don't have imaginations, because even the toys, like Legos, every Lego set is, basically directed towards a thing you're supposed to build. When we got
Yeah, when we
Legos,
were
it was
kids,
just a
we got a
box of
bucket of
blocks.
bricks. Yeah,
Yep.
They had some models. It's like build a house, build a car,
Yeah,
whatever.
they had, but they were still, it was either build a house and you could build it 17 different ways, or you put came with a car set you could build 100 different ways. It's like,
But yeah. For us, it was just like, here's some bricks, figure it out.
yeah. Yeah, when Fisher Price came out with those constructs, I really got into those. They were kind of like girders with connector pieces. Had tons of those things, but those were perfect because I could fit Eagle Force and Mask into the actual cockpits of those, because they were made for like shorter figures. So I was huge into Eagle Force when that came out. So that was one of those things back in the late 70s.
I liked the idea of Eagle Force, but I just didn't like the die-cast figures. They were just goofy. I like what they've done with the reimagined stuff, now that they're like a 4-inch scale. It'll be interesting to see how those work out.
I got into Eagle Force because, like, at KB Toys, which was the closest thing that had toys, was an Ames department store here in our hometown. But they had like the typical thing, right? And then, like, once a month, my mom was always going to Olean for doctor's appointments and stuff. And there was a KB Toys in the mall there. So I'd go to KB Toys, and of course, she'd always give me $1. And back then I could get like 2 Eagle Force figures for 50 cents each, right? So it was like, okay, I'm going to get Eagle Force, right? And I ended up with like every figure. I had Eagle Force Mountain, I had the Jeep and the tank and all of it, right? But I find it funny because people don't realize this. They think Real American Hero was such a novel concept. They actually stole so much stuff for a Real American Hero from Eagle Force. They have Wild Bill. They have the Indian guy. Of course, his name was Red Wing. They have Satir, which was the Blue Ninja, which was basically the first ninja in a military line. They have like the big guy with his name was Turk, who had the cross ammo belts, which became Rock and Roll. All sorts of stuff that they ripped off that people don't, G.I. Joe. It's just like when I hear about Kenner being the first to do a 3 3/4 inch, action figure line. I'm like, what about the adventure people that they borrowed to make the prototypes from? Those guys were doing it 5-6 years before Kenner even started.
There's a lot of stuff out there that was very innovative, like the Micro Man that became Micronauts. Those Japanese designers and engineers came up with some really cool stuff. And once it started coming over to the States, it created a whole new standard,
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's like, back in my day, we had 5 POA and we were happy to have it. And it's like, now you got elbows and joints and, foot articulation, finger articulation, nose articulation. It's like, what are you doing? It's crazy.
Yep. What did Scuba Pete call the adventure team people's grip?
Beer and steer.
Beer and steer. Yeah, that's right.
You got one hand on the wheel and one hand holding your beer. It's good.
Yep. And that's how it was, right? But you're happy with that kind of stuff, right? I mean, like, you got the legs and the arms move. If your neck, you actually went up and down, you were good. You're like, oh, this is great.
That was a bonus. And then when you got the motorcycle rider that had knees, it's like, whoa.
I know. When I first saw the motorcycle rider with posable knees, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit.
What sorcery is this?
Yeah. I remember when Joe first came out, like with the Real American Hero, and I had a bunch of those adventure team or adventure people motorcycles, and I wanted Joe to ride them, of course. And I remember my brother, like I said, he was a couple years older than me. He actually took the grips, because they were made for the bigger adventure people hands, and Joe had small hands. And of course, they were famous for the thumbs breaking off the Real American Hero.
Oh, yeah.
And he sanded down the handle grips for me so I could slide the Real American Hero hands on it. So
nice. Yeah. The guys were talking about Metropolis, talk about, Blast from the Past.
Yeah. Yep.
It was ahead of its time. I mean, there was a political undertone, the whole thing with Maria, the robot / android. It's trippy. I saw a remastered version where they had put a new soundtrack underneath the silent film and had kind of cleaned up the film. And I don't know if they'd done it digitally or went back to the original print or something, but that came out back in the 90s and it was really neat.
Yeah.
It was like watching opera. You had this whole really cool orchestral kind of thing going underneath the silent film, and it was just a cool presentation.
I've seen a
So-
couple of the late 40s, early 50s sci-fi movies that had really bad, sound to them get redone,
Ugh.
and they put in, the music and stuff added to them and clean up the soundtrack and stuff. It's just like watching them that way with the black and white still. It's just like, wow,
Yeah,
It's like I really like watching some of the old Sinbad movies with what's his name, special
Harryhausen.
Harryhausen's special effects and stuff, love those movies. It's like, and
Those are cool.
they're so like atypical of like, Persia and Arabian, stereotypes
Oh, yeah.
back then. It's like every time they go to a city, it's like nothing but like these stores of, just all these people selling wares on the street. And it's like,
Yeah, it's like, how many stores sell wicker baskets in this bazaar? All of them. Why?
wicker
Because that's the
baskets and
prop we had.
magical lamps, right?
And oh man, the stereotypes of, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, it's some white dude that they had,
Oh, yeah.
working in the random parking lot of the whatever picture making company. It's like, you come here, put this suit on, and
Yeah.
you're this guy today. And it's like,
Yeah. And you're going to wear this pointy mustache and this pointy beard so you look more authentic.
Exactly. It's like, oh yeah, we were not culturally sensitive in those days,
No.
but hey, it was
fun to watch.
it was
I mean,
the
of course,
times. Yeah.
Like all the women in those movies have to wear like the bare minimum, and have their cleavage completely, jacked up and stuff. It's like, yeah,
Oh yeah, Goji and I were making fun of some of the old cave girl and dinosaur movies
yep.
that came out in the 60s, and
yeah,
it was like, the fur bikini. That
Yep.
makes total sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, it's just like Planet of the Apes. I mean, the chick that plays Nova, right, in the original one, right? She's gorgeous, beautiful woman, but like,
Yep.
The cave bikini was about as close to the way it probably was as you could get, but they weren't, no one was wearing a fur or a leather bikini. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it's kind of like boob armor in comic books and anime. It's like, this makes absolutely no sense. There's no ballistic value to having this, but it looks cool. Whatever. Artistic.
I remember I was so excited when I was a kid, right? Because I was probably like, 10 years old, something like that, just getting to that age where I was starting to like, really notice girls at that point in time, right? And like Cannonball Run came on, and those two girls would drive the Ferrari, and the police would come up and they'd unzip their tops, It's like, whew, nice.
Hey, there are quite a few women that probably still use that trick to get out of a ticket.
I'm sure.
So can't fault them for that. It works.
Nope. If it works, hey, go for it, right? I like the ones you see on YouTube now. Some of the videos they show her on Instagram, where the girl will start doing crying, or she'll get herself all dialed up and walks up and it's like a female cop, or if it's it's like, oops, that ain't gonna work.
Yep, that ain't gonna work on this one. But man, those guys, Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, that whole crew, they did, the Cannonball Run and, the Smokey and the Bandit and all those goofy, high speed adventures for reasons. Those were fun.
Cannonball Run, I loved it when Dom DeLuise broke out. What was his name? Captain USA or something like that.
Oh, Lord. I think it was Captain USA.
Oh,
he had another one, Captain Chaos.
Captain Chaos, yeah.
And
the
then
look on Burt Reynolds' face, you could tell Burt Reynolds was not ready for him to actually do that, right? It was just like, it was so good.
Yeah. You got to wonder how many takes they had to do to keep with Burt breaking character, because Dom DeLuise
even like with Smokey
nuts.
and the Bandit, the first two when Burt Reynolds was actually in it, there's a lot of outtakes you can see now that are just hilarious. It's like,
yeah, those were fun. They were just goofy movies that you just go and you didn't care, you suspended disbelief and you just had fun. Now it's like everybody wants to tell you the message or put some sort of heavy thing. It's like, dude, I just want to eat some popcorn, drink some soda, watch a good flick.
There's
if I want real life, I'll watch
that are just out there to enjoy nowadays, right? It's like they all have some kind of lesson or such a deep plot or a plot twist, because everybody wants that plot twist now that you can't, follow it along.
Yeah.
It's like,
hopefully this trend will go away and we'll swing the pendulum back to actual entertainment again. There are a few out there that are good. You know,
I mean, I just watched the original Anchorman like a week ago or something like that. You know, that's a movie I just sat down, had a bag of chips, had a Gatorade, and I just laughed my ass off because it's so friggin' stupid. There's, you know, it's like
I didn't know that. Was Jackie Chan one of the guys in the Asian team where they had like the really sci-fi spiffed out car? It was like a Nissan or something that they had all
maybe he
decked
was.
out
I didn't know that
computer
either.
stuff. I have to go back and watch it.
Hey,
Been a
Aaron,
while.
what's happening, Payne?
Howdy.
Yeah, I did not know that Jackie Chan was in Cannonball. I wouldn't be surprised, but that's
Yeah,
another.
he's
I
yeah, I
was
was
just
going to say that's
talking.
a whole nother rabbit holes. Those Hong Kong, like Police Story and
Oh,
some of
yeah.
the other cool stuff he did. Those were fun.
I was just talking to somebody about that movie Gung Ho that Michael Keaton did, where the Asian company came over and took over the car building
The car
company.
company.
I was like, talk about stereotypical, racism. But I mean, the movie was great. I mean, and for me back then, it was right at the time when we have a business here. It's called Aaronson's, an arcade, and my uncle worked there, and it was getting bought out by a Japanese company. It's now called Koike Aaronson's, right? So,
Mm,
like for me, I was young, and he was always, screw them, Asian people and all this other. I mean, he doesn't think that way now, right? I mean, now he
sure.
drives like a Toyota, and he drives, all these other foreign cars that back then were, I remember one of my cousins, one of his nieces or nephews showed up in like a Subaru or something at a family get together. He basically made him park across the street. He couldn't even
So,
park in his
don't put
driveway.
that next to my Ford. Yeah, it's
Yep.
like we lived through that time when Detroit was king and they made these lead sled things that were,
Yep.
6 blocks long and the
Oh,
door,
yeah.
it was huge and, it took 3
Yep.
people just to open.
Yep.
Those were great. And then, everybody's looking for the economy car and Japan's like, yeah, we could do that. It's like,
Yeah, we got that for you. No problem.
and
I know
and
back when I
Ford's
was in
like,
school, I
oh,
laughed
we can
'cause
make a Pinto. It's like, no, keep your Pinto. No, thank you.
when I was in school, everybody wanted a muscle car. I had a 71 Barracuda. All the other
Nice.
guys had Monte Carlos and, El Caminos and Chevy Novas and, Chevelles
Torinos were
and
awesome. Yeah.
what was the one Pontiac had? They had the not the Corvette, the other one. I can't remember what the other. I can't remember what the other Pontiac was called, but everybody wanted those cars, And then Fast and the Furious came out, and all these kids in school, because my brother-in-laws were of that age, all the kids in school wanted the rice burners, that were like the Fast and the Furious cars, the Subarus.
Were you thinking of the Pontiac GTO?
Oh, the GTO, thinking, that's the one. Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what I was thinking of. Yep.
Yeah, my dad had a GTO for a minute. He called it.
Briscoe said that was him on the Asian team.
Oh, cool. I'll have to go back and watch that again. Yeah, he called it his the GTO was gas, tires, and oil because it would burn through all three a lot. And it's like it was just too expensive to keep. So he ended up trading out the GTO for I think he got a Volkswagen Squareback. It's like, how do you go from a GTO to a Squareback? That's just wrong on so many levels.
My dad did it too. He had the first truck I remember being old enough to remember was the Dodge Power Wagon, full, boxed in, SUV style truck, but huge, right? And then he ended up going from that to a Little Red Express. Remember the Little Red Dodge Red Expresses, right? And then we went from that to he bought a beater plow truck and got my mom a Plymouth Reliant K-car station wagon. And it was like that ugly Saturn gold color, it was like, oh God.
Those were so bad. I mean, they did exactly what they said they would do. It was an economy car. It was just ugly.
I had a couple of K cars as younger as reliable cars. So they, those got one that was my grandma's. She drove it, for years. It only had like 30,000 miles on it. So beat the snot out of that. I mean, you could beat the snot out of them. They didn't have any kind of sack, but you could beat the snot out of them.
They were reliable.
I remember he went from that to I can't remember what the next car was he had, but it was actually the first car that we got that actually talked, right? It would be like, ding,
Your door,
door
is
is
a
ajar.
jar. It's like, no, it's a door. It's not a
yeah,
jar.
exactly.
I
Yep.
know how to close a
Your
freaking door.
seatbelt is not engaged. Okay.
Thanks, Mom. I don't need my
Yeah.
seatbelt.
I had a Chevy Nova. It was an 80s four-door version.
Those are cool.
Yep. My second car was a 76 Chevy Nova with 2 doors. And it came with a 305 2-barrel. And my buddies and I retrofitted a 350 4-barrel engine into that. And it was a great engine. I mean, I could pass anything going up a hill, backwards. It had so much power in that thing. But
Oh yeah.
when the 4-barrels kicked in, I could watch my gas gauge drop from full down to half in like 2 seconds too.
I was
So
gonna say I had a Torino, and it had the 351 Cleveland in it. It was sweet, and I couldn't afford to keep it. I just, because literally you'd hit the accelerator and you could watch the gas gauge just go
Yep.
down. It
now,
was
luckily
like,
for us, the gas was
oof.
only 89 cents a gallon or something like that back then. But
Yeah, so I didn't have the Torino long. I bought it. I got it out of my system. It's like, yes, I've had a cool car. And
Yep.
I sold it and got something that was like a little 4-banger that I could actually afford to keep gas in to go back and forth to work.
yeah, I had
But-
my Chevy Nova, and I moved on to Pittsburgh, and I was driving once a month. I was driving back home just to see my family and stuff. And it was like, first couple of months I was driving that Nova. I was like, man, this thing is just killing me in gas, I mean, I was getting there really fast. I was getting to Pittsburgh from Buffalo, which is normally like a 3-hour and 45-minute drive. I was making in like 2.5 hours. So I was just flying, but
Oof.
I ended up trading it in and got like a Plymouth Sundance little 4-door 4-banger. It was like, first time I drove it, I remember I was on this back road that they took every time. And like, I'd pass semi trucks in my Nova going uphill, no problem. Went to do that with this. I was like, nope, just backed in and went right back behind the semi truck. I was like, guess I'm stuck here with this.
Yeah, there's no pep, but yeah, a punk with toys is saying, what's that? The LeBron or the LeBaron or LeBron was had the talking feature.
Yep, that's what it was. It was
popular for a minute.
Chrysler LeBaron. Yep. It was burgundy with maroon interior, and it had the sweetest robot voice that would put any of these new AI voices to shame.
What was the one that
Your door is
Ricardo Montalban was always talking about? He's like, it has the fine Corinthian leather. It's like, dude, it's
Yeah.
vinyl. It's
Yeah.
not leather.
Yeah. Oh, the old pleather seats. And they didn't have anything, to protect your ass when you got in that. I
Oh,
remember
man.
jumping in those as a kid. My mom would be like, get your ass in the back seat. You jump in and the freaking seats
It's like
burning your
lava.
legs. And
Yeah, because the sun would just bake that vinyl, and it would just be,
Oh, yeah.
you'd have to bring a beach towel or something to put down.
I remember my cousin and I, when got to the age where we were driving, my grandparents lived at a lake. They lived there all year, but it was basically a summer resort lake, So my cousin and I, of
Nice.
course, would always hang out there in the summer because that's where all the girls were, And he had some car. I can't remember what kind of car it was, but it was a little 4-door. But the radio didn't work, so he's brought this little portable radio in with it. He'd set it on the dash. I remember one time we let that thing sit in the sun, and it actually melted the radio plastic into the vinyl of the dash. So we went to turn it on, and of course it still worked, but it was like, and then like he went to move the radio, it was just a melted mess. It was like stuck to the
I
thing.
think I made the mistake of, like the little green army men. I had some of those like in the back window of the
Yep.
car, had them set up, and they came out the next day and they're all like warped and help me.
Yeah. This is back before they put all the UV protection in the windows and stuff, Now that's all.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't too long after that they started putting all that in there, but
Those were the days. Cars were
Yeah.
different. The Cordoba.
yeah.
Yeah. Some things I don't miss, but some things were interesting. Like the giant station wagons where you just pile everybody in.
Oh yeah, the rear facing seat. And,
Yep.
yeah, I remember
Those
we
were
used to
fun.
fight over who got to sit back there, I want to sit in the back because you got to face backwards and stare at the people
Yeah.
behind you.
It's like being in the gunner's, seat on
Yep.
a World War II bomber or something.
Yep.
Those were fun.
That's like we still have a right down the road from where my parents live, which is probably 15 minutes from here. They still have a functioning drive-in, And I remember up until probably when I left for the Army, they still used the little things that you hook on your windshield, that
For
broadcasted the little metal
speaker.
speaker boxes. Yep. And then when I came back from the service, they were doing it through the FM, FM station, whatever it was. So.
Yeah, which was kind of cool that you could actually tune in the radio to whatever the movie was playing. That's kind of neat. But
yeah, it was great when that
drive-ins were
happened because
awesome.
I come back from the service and we'd camp out behind the woods, down in the woods, because my buddy owned that land, and we just walk up to the drive-in, and,
Oh yeah,
sit up on the back side of the thing where no one would see us, and we'd watch the movie, have a little radio between the two of us, or a group of us, depending on how many people, and go cruise around for the cars, find out what cars were loaded with the chicks, and
Did you ever pull the trick where it's like, okay, they're charging per head, so you throw everybody in the trunk, and there's just like two people in the car?
We had people laying on the floors underneath the feet in the back seat, fill the trunk up with people. It got to the point for a while where they start actually have somebody go around your car and count the heads, and you had to pop the trunk. And then they got smart and they just started charging by the carload, so it didn't matter how many people you had.
Right.
I mean, had we gotten pulled over back then, I mean, it was not safe. I mean, we had, 3 people on the floor, one person laying down underneath the 3 people sitting on top of them in the back seat, 8 people on the in the trunk. Is that rain?
I don't know.
I don't know what that noise is.
Or a drum roll. I hear it.
Probably my keyboard.
Oh, it sounded like rain.
No, let me get rid of my microphone if I can. I'm not going to touch it. I'll leave it.
Like a
That's
Punk
right.
for Toys had a casualty. His toy AK-47 got sun warped. Yeah, those back windows were deadly for toys.
Yeah, my aunt bought my grandparents' house at the lake when they passed away, and like a year ago, she had the deck ripped up. That was on the back of the house where everybody, it's where we had the barbecues, and that's where all the birthday parties were. And I couldn't tell you how many G.I. Joe and A-Team and toy weapons were probably lost under that
Fell
deck
down
that
in the
slid down
cracks.
behind the cracks. I'm like, I wish you would have told me. I would have come in with my sifter and sifted this out before you built over top of it.
Been a scavenger hunt.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Been living outdoors and in the cricks for a long time.
I think he's referring to stuffing people in the trunk to go to the drive-in.
Yeah, that
pulling
too,
the coyote thing.
Yeah,
muling people for cheap entertainment.
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's how you did it in the drive-ins, though, right? No one ever paid
That's
full
true.
price.
No,
they got enough money for
unless you went to the
stands anyway.
I was going to say, if you went to the concession stand, they got you there. But we'd always bring our own cooler of sodas and stuff. And yeah, we were cheap. Yep. I love the drive-ins.
The drive-ins doing really good. They actually just added a second screen probably 2-3 years ago, maybe 4. But now they have 4 movies a night playing. Now they have 2 on this side and 2 on that side. They usually do horror or whatever over here, and then do the kids movies over on that side or whatever. But yeah, it's been functioning since I was old enough to remember.
That's cool. They're still around. I remember a lot of them got torn down and turned into flea markets and stuff back in the late.
There's
80s,
a really
early
big
90s.
one, probably about an hour from here on the way to Rochester. Actually, what's that place called, Luke? You remember the name of that place? The Charbroil Grill or something like that. But they have like 3 screens, all separate, right? And then they have miniature golf. They have like an actual charbroil pit, a pizza shop. I mean, they made this place, a destination to go to on the weekends, right? People go there, play a couple rounds of miniature golf in the afternoon. They eat dinner, then they go over to the movie theater, So
the Charcoal Corral.
Yeah, thank you. That's the one.
Oh, I didn't know they had a movie theater thing there.
Yeah, they have a
drive-in.
2 or 3 drive-in screens.
Oh, yep, nice. Yeah, it's the Cineplexes and the when they started putting the movie theaters in the malls, that kind of killed a lot of the drive-ins and places when I was growing up. Yeah, it's like I was in the age where the mall was the place for a long time. Everybody you go there and you hit like Hot Topic, Spencer's Toys, all the goofy little places, and go watch a movie, get Get an orange Julius.
Oh yeah. When me and Luke's mom first got together when we were dating, I mean, like every Sunday, that's what we did. We went to the movie theater in the app. We'd go shopping. She was always picking out outfits or whatever. Then we hit a matinee, and of course, matinees were like half the price of the regular movie,
Sure.
right? And then we go home for the day, right? It's great.
That's it. And I mean,
sodas,
corn dog on a stick.
Yes, sodas.
Oh, yeah, sodas. Yeah, we were underage. We were good kids. Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's like everything was on a stick in the 80s. It was corn dog on a stick, or just all the mall food.
Yep.
It's like,
well, all
I'm
the mall
surprised
food
I
back
don't have
then, right? Because like
diabetes.
the food courts were small back then, right? When we were kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they were big, but they were small compared to what they are now, right? And it's funny because like they had a shift when the malls got really, really busy, when everybody started going to the mall. The food courts got gigantic, and all the food became like sit down, eat with a fork and a plate type.
It got fancy,
food, right? And now the malls are dead, and all these restaurants. There's like 2 restaurants compared to the 20 that used to be there, and it's like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, back when we were
fun.
kids, it was like you grab a slice of pizza, maybe a burger, and then everything else, like you said, was either on a stick or you get French fries in a cone-shaped cardboard cup. I mean, that was what your choices were.
Yeah, nachos were big too.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
those were the days.
That was half.
Sure.
That's half the fun of watching the Stranger Things was seeing all the little member berries of the mall and all the cheesy stuff. It's like, yeah, these guys, whoever wrote this, they totally lived in that 80s zone.
Yep.
They get it.
Yeah, that's why I love watching some of these old movies from like Uncle Buck and The Great Outdoors, all like the John Candy and all those movies, right? Because you see things like The Price of Gas, and it's like, man, I remember those.
Or
days
see it, the literal gas. The pumps where you actually had the old analog rolling numbers on them and stuff.
Yeah.
Just like, credit card, you take your card and they put it in that big machine and slide, make an impression on it. It's like,
with the carbon copy paper that it takes 2 weeks for it comes out, for you even see it hit your thing. 2 months actually, usually. But yeah, those are the good old days. Or they have like now they have like the stacks of like windshield washer fluid. Back then, they had different types of oil in a can you could buy, it's like too funny.
Yeah. And then
or just seeing like the types of cars, right? Like the radios in cars and stuff. It's so funny to see some of that stuff now, right?
Oh yeah. Or seeing some of the, there's some movies where you'll see random, like when they're in a toy store or something, you'll see stuff on the shelf. It's like, dude, I remember that. I remember one movie you saw like Castle Grayskull and some other stuff that was up on the shelf when it was brand new,
Yeah, there was like, what the hell movie was it? Oh, Blues Brothers. And the one Blues Brothers scene, I think it is.
That drove through the mall.
Where they drive through the mall, right? And they crash through the toy store. And like there's Sesame Street like hand puppets up on the shelf and like some other things. I'm just like, man, look at that stuff.
Yeah. Yes, Lawrence, we're pulling our old man back in my day.
Lawrence ain't that much younger than me, and so that doesn't make him. He's not that much younger than you, then. So,
yes, we are vintage, but that just means we've it's not the years, it's the mileage, as Indy used to say. God knows it's like 12 miles of bad road, but hey, we survived.
Everybody always says, you're only as old as you feel. I go by the fact that I'm only as old as I act, because I act like I'm really young, so I feel good, right? If I dwelled on how much my body aches sometimes, and I mean, it's true, right? I'm 50, and I mean, I'm in pretty good shape, but man, I abused the shit out of myself as a kid, right? I mean, when it was time to do stuff like my buddies, I was always the guy, right? Hey, I dare you to jump off that bridge. I dare you to run across the street. I dare you to try jumping your bike over this parked car. I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. If Evel Knievel could do it, it's like, yeah, but Evel Knievel ended up breaking every bone in his body a couple times. It's like
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. Hit it.
Yep.
On a mission from God.
Indeed. Got to get the band back together.
We're close. We only got 15 more minutes and we hit the 3-hour mark, Lawrence. So we're going for it now.
It's not hard because Ed and I can BS about anything for hours. It's
Yeah.
it's all
right.
good. Poor Luke is probably bored out of his skull. but,
Luke's taking notes. Oh, Dad did this, huh? So Dad did this, huh? Yeah. So when he does something stupid,
I'm
he's like,
playing
Dad, you remember
Starfield
when
right
you
now,
told me
actually.
I was gonna say he's probably back into the
Yeah.
game, but
I'm playing Starfield again.
So I'll tell you a funny story about I was now where my grandparents lived at this lake. It's probably about 10 to 15 minutes driving from my parents' house, you know. So
were you supposed to send Travis a link? He's pouting.
no. I asked if anybody wanted to come on. You said you were coming on, so I was gonna go solo, but hey. So anyway, I was they
As
lived
long as
about
you're not going commando, I don't think
that's
that'll
right.
pass YouTube
No.
guidelines.
What's it saying here? Hoping the BP is down.
No, he's cool.
Oh, he's joking. All right. So it was probably like a 35 to 45-minute bike ride, depending on how fast you went, right? And when I got older, of course, I was able to ride my bike. And my cousin, who was my age, him and his mom and dad got divorced. So he would live in Florida with her for the school year. And then he'd come up and stay the summer with his dad. But his dad lived up in Hamburg. So he basically lived with my grandparents for the summer and at the lake. So I didn't have a car yet. You know, I was like 13, 14 years old, but I had a nice 10 speed. So my parents,
yeah.
you know, I tell them I'm riding to the lake. They're like, okay, well, call us when you get there. So make sure you're safe, you know. So I'd ride my bike and get there, you know. Then it was just a free for all for, you know, I'd leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Dad left for work. I was on my bike, you know, going to the lake, hang out with my cousin and the girls all day. And I remember the lake where they lived had a circle, you know, and inside the circle there was a tennis court and volleyball net and swing sets and all sorts of stuff, right? And that's where we hung out because it was in the center of everything, you know. And everybody parked along the street and all over the place, you know, especially on the weekends. I remember it was Saturday morning, and the circle from the main road, and there's just like 10, 15, you know, young girls all in their bikinis playing volleyball, right? I'm a young guy, think pretty highly of myself, right? Pretty cocky, too cocky. So of course I'm riding my bike, right? And I go no hands, you know, riding my 10 speed. And the whole time I'm watching over here, watching the girls play volleyball, right? Smacked into the ass end of the station wagon, went flying, heading over all the way. I cleared the roof of the car, landed on the hood, right?
Nice.
Of course, it was like
got some air.
Yeah, it was a big bang, and it was even a bigger bang when I hit the hood of the car, right?
And of course, everybody turns around to see what happened.
Slid off of that. And of course, yeah, the girls stopped playing volleyball. They're all watching me, right? And my cousin standing, it was probably like, you know, 3 houses down from my grandparents' house. He was standing in the front yard, of course, probably watching the girls. Of course, he didn't say that, but saw the whole thing. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I get up, right? I pick up my bike. Front tire's all fucked up, right? I'm like, son of a bitch. So embarrassed, right?
My 10-speed stories aren't that impressive, but I did get in trouble because of a girl one time because she let me know in no uncertain terms, if you could come over tonight, things might happen. I'm like, I'm there. So I snuck out of the house after my parents went to bed, grabbed the 10-speed, and I'm booking it. It's probably, 11 o'clock at night. Thought I got away scot-free. And the next day, my dad's like, so, did you have a good time last night? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I got a call from a buddy of mine. He said he saw you on your 10-speed in the middle of the night hauling ass someplace when you were supposed to be in bed. You want to explain? I'm like, not really. I got laid.
Yeah.
Does that count?
I remember when I was a kid, I snuck out of the house with a buddy of mine and went out and, we were probably like this year after we graduated, or maybe it was the year before we graduated for our senior year. Yeah, I wasn't old enough to drink yet anyway, but because drinking was 21. But we snuck out of the house, went out to like parties all over the place, or hanging out with girls and all the stuff, right? And my dad worked he was a mechanic. The garage he worked at, they actually fixed the state troopers' cars there because it was right across the street. So they were kind of contracted to maintain, do all the maintenance. So my dad knew all the state troopers. So at one point in time, we were cruising around. I was fucking loaded, and got pulled over. Cop's like, "Oh, are you Joe Kozak's son?" Right? Looking at my ID, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
It's like you
They're
can't
like,
get away with anything. They all
they're
know.
like, "Well, we're not going to take you to jail because your dad's going to know how to handle the situation much better, right?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no! Take me to jail. Just take me to the holding center. I'm fine with it, right? I'll take the rap. I don't care." Took me home. My dad's all. I remember now. I'm half drunk, but I'm sober enough where I remember. And
Yeah, you know what's coming.
yeah, and the cops. My dad's really super cordial to the cop. Oh, thank you for bringing him home. And make sure he's safe and all the exchange of niceties. That cop. I heard the car start, and as soon as I turned around, I was on the floor. Right. I mean, Dad laid me out. Right.
Yep.
Get your ass upstairs. And this is like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Right. Go upstairs. I remember going to the bathroom, and I remember laying on the bed, and I was drunk enough that it was spinning a little bit, right? But not bad. Fell asleep. My dad wakes me up 5 a.m. I'm like, he's like, so you want to go out and be a big guy and, do things like a grown up? And I'm like, oh, you would go out and drink, and everything's fine. He's like, yep. And I go to work the next day. So guess what? I was up on my uncle's roof of his barn, re-roofing the barn that whole day.
With a hangover.
Yeah, 9,000 degrees out, it's like August. I'm ralphing off the side of the barn. My dad's like, drink some water, because you're not falling off that roof. He's down on the ground sitting in the lawn chair, watching me scrape shingles off a barn roof. My uncle's like, you better not let him fall, Joe. And I was like, you better not fall, you little bastard. I was like, okay, Dad, I'm not going to fall. Throw me a bottle of water, Dad. Of course, back then we didn't have bottles. It was a cup of water. I had to reach down and grab it.
Yep. Oh boy.
No, there wasn't a hood ornament on that one.
Yeah, hood ornament would have been.
Yeah,
that would have been rough. Oh yeah, man! Everybody had to make a ramp. That was the neighborhood thing.
Oh yeah.
I learned the hard way. The BMX bikes could do the ramp. A 10-speed was not built to do ramp jumps.
I could never actually jump my bike. And I remember my brother and his one friend would build they take like 4 or 5 cinder blocks, make sure the ramp was really sturdy, a nice 3/4 inch piece of,
got a good
plywood,
angle on it.
Got a good angle on it. And they do all these tricks, And I could never yank my bike up enough to get a good jump. I mean, I bounce off it or whatever, but so I remember
that's one thing I never understood about bike design. It's like the girl's bike had the bar went down.
Oh yeah, yep.
And the guy's bike had the straight
breaker.
bar. Yep. Yeah, it's like, shouldn't it be the other way around? Because every time you wipe out on a bike, you'd always get nailed in the nards. It
was only designed so they could get their leg over it without raising their skirt too high. That was the only reason it was designed that way.
Yeah, it's like.
But I remember I decided I was going to practice going off the jump. So I went and grabbed a couple cinder blocks, grabbed a piece of wood that I found, right? Thought I had the ramp set up like my brother and his friend were like professional ramp builders, I mean, I was not, obviously. So I remember I was cruising along, hit the bottom of the wood slid off the cinder blocks. I smacked into the cinder blocks, ram my nuts on the handlebars. It's like, yeah. That was it. I never tried to jump again after that.
Yeah, you're trying to catch your breath. You're seeing stars. It's like, oh.
Have a good one, Fat Red Few.
Yep. Oh, man.
All right, we got 9 minutes. Can we do it?
We can do it. What else can we BS about? Tell me more about your Super Joe experience of this new retro nuevo kind of version you picked up.
Oh, so he came with a really nice box, first of all. And the only thing that I don't like is, let me blow it up full screen here.
Mm-hmm.
So his belt has like the typical, plug with the little hole thing, right?
Right. I remember hearing those guys saying that it didn't turn out the way they wanted. They were going to try to redesign the belt. The plastic is a little too stiff, so it doesn't stay in there very good. Now, I got it positioned just right, so I'm not messing with it. And then the other thing is, I wish they came with lights, because that would just be a cool effect. But other than that, I mean, the figure poses just like the original ones. He can actually
know,
hold his lightning sword and his laser pistol pretty well.
yeah, I have the
Cool.
lightning sword still in the package. Now, of course, being sophisticated as we are with action figures now, I wish the trigger finger would actually be the trigger finger, but
Of course.
I could
You could scalpel that. You can make it
I
work.
could slice the finger out to make it work, but it's like I don't want to mess with them. I want to keep them kind of the retro style because we didn't have
I
that.
saw
back when
they have a Mike Powerhead too, so you could
Yep.
make a Mike Power.
Yeah, they
for
have,
Super
like I
Joe.
said, they have a bunch of different versions. So I'm probably going to get Gorn next, just because that was I had the Commander and Gorn. Gorn was my favorite as a kid, but
What was the green evil clone of Super Joe? I can't remember his name.
that was Gorn. That was Darkon.
Darkon, that's right.
Yeah.
Darkon was cool.
Yeah, Darkon
I
was
think
really cool.
They're doing a Darkon also, aren't they, or something similar?
Luke, there
What?
we go. Never mind. I got it. I was going to ask for your technical assistance. I couldn't figure out what button to push, but I got it. Just go back to playing.
I
I think they made Darkon, or did they make Darkon and not Gorn? Maybe that's what they got. But I know in the 12
Gorn
inch
was
they made
the giant
Darkon.
lizard thing. Yeah.
No, Gorn was the small green guy that was like a monster. It looked kind of like the creature of the Black Lagoon. And then Terron was
the big
monster.
Yeah. And then they had a light guy. It was like clear, translucent.
Yep.
I don't remember what his name was.
I never
Luminous,
saw
I
him
think.
when I was a kid. Like around here, all they had were like the actual Joes and a couple of the villains. I never saw that clear guy. But
I didn't know until I started, researching vintage Joes that what was the vehicle they made, the Avenger, the big plane that could be like a land racer or a sea boat.
Oh, the one for they made it for the adventure team, which had it was the sea sled, and then it was the plane, and then it was something else too. Yeah,
they did a Super Joe version of that.
Yep. Yeah, they released.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
It's like, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. It would be really big for him, but he'd fit because it was kind of tiny for the big 12-inch shows. So, and it
was one of those things. It was kind of like that Big Jim with the Barbie stuff, right? I mean, Barbie's vehicles and stuff were always scaled small, right? I mean, you put a Barbie in it, their head sticks out over the windshield. But for Big Jim, it was just slightly bigger. It's kind of putting like the 6-inch, figures in the Bratz car, kind of, like 7-inch figures in the Bratz car. It's like just a little too big or just a little too small. It was like right in that thing. But even like the G.I. Joe Jeeps, they're scaled nice and they're big, but they're not full. If they were 1/6 scale, those things would be twice the size they are. And it's like,
oh yeah,
but
yeah, the 21st century toy stuff is scaled pretty good comparatively to the Hasbro stuff.
But the Jeeps the Humvees were definitely scaled down.
Too small.
Fit the figures nice, looked good, but like they were definitely too small. The Hasbro Humvee that they came out with, which goes for ungodly amounts of money now because it was very short released on top of everything else. It was a 4-seater Hummer, and it was really, really nicely done, nicely scaled. But that thing is huge and expensive now. But,
they also did a desert rail, like a, what do you call that? Sand rail.
Yeah, they did the sand rail dune buggy thing. Yep, that was a really nice vehicle. Had one of those. The guys that do the click and play had one of those too. That was done really nice, which was, of course, a hell of a lot cheaper than the Hasbro version.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's like, it's a slippery slope because once you start getting into the vehicles for Adventure Team, it's like, that too much space.
I have my vintage. I shouldn't say vintage. I have my Adventure Team helicopter that I built and customized out of trash pieces. So it's all glued together. I basically cobbled it together just to. I didn't want to customize a real one, right? So I painted it all forest green. It was for my Adirondack Mountain, or cryptid investigation division, that I made. And so I made it all green and did that. And then I have another body of original one that I'm going to probably rebuild that my friend gave me. But the only other vehicle I want to get again is the ATV, because I had a couple ATVs, but I sold them all when I downsized in all my collection. But the ATV is a nice vehicle because you could put a Joe in it, put some gear in the back, do some photos, but it doesn't take up that much
That's
room.
much room. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
iconic. You know,
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
the cheesy.
It's
Whether
the
you had
vehicle.
whether you had the orange troop, was it the trouble
Troubleshooter. Yep.
alert troubleshooter,
Yep.
and then I had the yellow one that came with the Mummy's Tomb set.
Yeah. That's the one that I had.
That's one I'd like to have, just because it's an iconic vehicle
Yeah.
that just says Joe.
You could pick those up pretty cheap too, without the crane. Just the actual vehicle with the handrails in the back. I mean, I just saw one a couple weeks ago at an antique store for like $25. I mean, it's
Sweet.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just I haven't really looked into it. Plus, even if I do find a good deal, there's the shipping problem to
Yeah.
deal with right now. It's like,
Well, I'll keep
So-
my eye out. If I see one again for a reasonable price, I'll let you know. I can always ship with the will and have them hold on to it until you're ready to do a bulk,
Yeah.
shipment or something. I don't mind.
when and if Will ever gets his workshop up and running, because he's been threatening to do that for a while. He's got some 3D printing concepts. One of the projects we wanted to do was a scaled down version of that 6-wheel ATV as a 3D print project, just to try it out. you
Yeah.
know. So
I was looking at,
eventually we'll get to it.
Yeah, I was looking at taking because I got shipwreck, I got rock and roll. I need to get a snow job head. Right there, I got the 3 Adventure Team color beards. So I was
That's
thinking
true.
about whipping up a couple of Adventure Team Joes, but I'm not. My biggest problem right now is trying to figure out what uniform I'd put them in, because I want them all to have like the Land Adventure to be in a camo or something close to
Right.
that, right? And then finding an
Yeah,
orange flight suit and
I've been kind of looking at some of the basic troopers from Action Force, wondering if there's a way to make an adventure team, because they've got the green suits, they've got the
Yeah.
blue suits. I'm like, maybe, but again,
Yeah.
finding the right head sculpt to make that work is not
Yeah.
easy.
The head sculpt.
Marauders is coming out with a Vietnam era set.
Who is?
So in the 4-inch Marauders,
Oh, yeah.
Task, yeah.
Yep.
When those hit, I think you're going to see some really good Joe conversions with those, because they've got the the style of uniform, and they've got the heads with the beards. So
There's been a couple of guys that have taken and made some really nice custom 4-inch adventure team. This one guy I watch on Instagram, I can't remember who it is, but he made a really nice 4-inch A-team figure set. And of course, he took one of the old vans, right? And you used the old van, but he made a really nice looking A-team set. He did an adventure team set, and he must have used like Eagle Force or something and made the colored uniforms, but they're all the same uniform. Like for me,
Right.
I want to have like a flight suit for the air adventure. Like the sea
Yeah.
adventure, I could easily take Shipwreck's body and put on,
oh yeah,
find a redhead, snow job head, and I'm good with that, right? But
that's
the rest
true.
of it's like,
Get him an adventure team sticker to put on that
yeah,
dungaree shirt.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be cool with all the nostalgia bait that Hasbro keeps throwing out. I'm surprised they haven't gone back to the adventure team. It's like there's a lot you could do with that. Even if you just brought back Mike Power and Bullet Man, that would sell.
yeah. Didn't Fresh Monkey Fiction do a version of Bullet Man, or somebody
They did
a
in the
4-inch
4-inch.
version of it? Yeah,
He was at PowerCon. No, not PowerCon, Joe Fest.
Yeah.
They did him as an exclusive there. Gojitron and Will picked up one. I think he picked one up for me, but he's got it at his place while I'm figuring out the shipping stuff. That turned out pretty cool. So there's definitely people who love those old characters. Somebody will make
I'm
it.
hoping.
'Cause
I'm hoping now
Hasbro
that
just doesn't care.
No, Hasbro doesn't care. I'm hoping that Fresh Monkey Fiction, now that they're doing that 6-inch line of Voyagers, they're calling it.
Oh,
They have
yeah,
the
Micronaut
2
style.
Micronaut style guys, and then they have the TV head guy. I can't remember where he comes from, but he comes from some other pop culture thing.
Saga,
Saga,
I think,
yep.
was the name of the
Yeah.
comic book.
Yep, Saga. And then they have one 6-inch Wild Bill from Eagle Force in there. I'm hoping that they
Nice.
do Bullet Man in the 6-inch for that line, because he could fit into that Voyagers line easily, right? I mean, that'd be.
I
'cause
would
it's just
I
kind
would
of
definitely
a mix match
I'd be-
of different things.
I'd be
so.
all over that. It's like a lot
Yeah.
of these companies that have lived in the 3 and 3/4 to 4-inch range are starting to branch into 112, which is cool, because it's like you can have both. Both are cool.
Yeah.
There's a market for both.
Yeah, you're certainly not going to take away, especially like if they don't oversaturate the Monster Force and this Voyagers line with their 4-inch figures, because a lot of the Monster Force guys are actually in their 4-inch line already. Like
That's true.
the Forgotten King and a
The
couple of the other
Kilowog.
guys. Yeah, the Kilowog's in there. So they're in the 4-inch line already. So, but if they don't oversaturate the
I
6-inch,
hate to interrupt, but I gotta
Yeah.
go. I'll see you guys next
Are you all right, Luke?
Tuesday. Yeah, I'm going to the gym.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Have a good
enjoy.
night, buddy. Love you.
Good
I
night.
will. Yeah, see ya.
We're past the 3-hour mark, my friend. So
Oh, yes. So anyway, let me finish this sentence and we'll finish this thought and we'll take off. But yeah,
All
if they
right.
don't oversaturate that 6-inch line with their 4-inch stuff, they can carry that 4-inch stuff, right? Because there's still there's a resurgence for people wanting that size because there's so many, the main guys are out of it, right? Hasbro's out of it.
Right.
So you got Delta 17 coming in and Marauders, a couple other people, but
Hyatt Toys has been doing some really cool stuff in
Hyatt
that
Toys,
scale.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm all in for Monster Force. I ordered
he wasn't here.
he was kind of here.
He
Moral
was,
support.
He was here in spirit for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely into Monster Force. I have I have everything pre-ordered right now for the January release and the September release. So
I just my pile of loots got the veteran William from, was it Fury?
Yeah, Fury Toys.
The werewolf.
Yep.
And now I found out he's going to be in Monster Force as well.
Yes. Yep.
So they're doing a Monster Force version of him. So I'll probably pick that one up too, because I'm a sucker for werewolves.
That's a pretty interesting
vintage
thing
robots.
that they're using the Memory Toys War Bear body for the Sasquatch figure. And then they're using the Fury Toys veteran William for their werewolf, for their bigger. Like I said, I don't know how they're going to put him in, because they have the Kilowog, which is the smaller, actual 6-inch scale.
Well, like you were saying in your review, storyline wise, it would make sense that, a pure blood would be maybe a bigger size, and these other guys are hybrids or something.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to have him be that
cool
doctor that's got the actual werewolf in his blood, and have him be that version of that, and then have the other guys the smaller one. So, but I think it's neat that they're using these other molds. So
yeah, and it's why reinvent the wheel if another company is willing to partner with you and they've made a great mold for a figure. Yeah, that's awesome, because that's what we do anyway. Is we buy from other third parties and blend them together with our own collections. So
yeah, they got BBTS signed on. I don't know where they got the articulation from, but I'm sure the bodies are going to be very similar to, from what I've seen, they're going to be very similar to Valaverse. They got Gridiron making the weapons and the accessories, and I'm sure
they're designing them, but I think they're factory made. They're not going to be 3D printed like what Gridiron offers. Yeah, okay.
They're factory made. Gridiron's designing them,
yeah. Because they have some great designs, but I'm not a fan of the 3D printed stuff. I bought a few of them, and they just
Well, they're also great. Gridiron is nice, but it's spendy, right, for what you're getting. I mean, you can buy like Lauren said, you could buy a whole Monster Force figure with Gridiron designed weapons for the same price that you're going to get a couple Gridiron weapons sent to you for, right?
Yeah, I mean, those Valaverse weapons packs are super.
Their character loadouts are amazing, for $35-$40, but and I could buy a figure that's loaded out from Valaverse for that same price, right? For just what I'm getting for a backpack and a couple of accessories. So
that's true, and the stands and the hands, and I've got tons of extra bits that I can use for other kit bashing. So Valaverse is a good value. I'm a sucker for them. Call me a shill if you want. I don't care. I like them.
You make a quality product,
I like what I like. Yeah,
exactly.
If they made crap, I would say that, but they don't.
Yep.
They've had a few hiccups here and there, but they course correct, unlike some other bigger companies that.
Yep. Exactly.
It is what it is. But anyway, I've had fun hanging out with you, Ed. It's always cool hanging with you.
Yeah, always cool to hang with you too, Jim. Appreciate it. It was a great conversation. It's a good time.
And
enjoy it. Good to go down memory lane once in a while.
Oh yeah. Everybody in the chat for being patient with us
hanging
as
out
we reminisce.
Appreciate y'all. So I'm going to play us out, Jim. And
alrighty.
Call it a night.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
No problem.
If I can remember how to do this. This is Luke's job, and he's not here.